Don't bite me, when they get to the land, I feel the horse there. Like I ain't wicked. Because I wrote this, no hand out for the homeless. For the homeless, I caught them shots. Another piece of the puzzle can get the jazz. You fight me, you have to win. One more shot to hit the ground. Don't feel like a mile from there. Like I didn't say nothing, 10 tears on my skull. All the time, we were just friends. When it right for me, let's get down with it, bro. Only still got no, don't let my words. Just take it, you can run, no. Just take it, you can run, no. Take it, you can run, no. To the people that listen to my people, they know that I do care. Put their hands in the air, right side to side. I'm on with the best time to ride. What my niggas say, my niggas say my niggas no more. Push me to the back, they put the change up his bag. I do it for us, I'm going back. Don't buy the shit, yeah. No police all type of African shit. Just right in the face, why you tell me? All of the black kids, just all of the black kids. Exclusive shit, I get greedy. Keep it coming, just don't stop. The revolution starts with shit.
Now I won't be a bad thing. I think he's blind, now my mama said, baby, I'm not you got sense. They act like I only act right to win. You looking at purgatory, grab nose up the heaven. Let's show funny in the end, cause I ain't paid the worker. You looking at me, but I ain't the judge of my character. I get without my God on this planet, back in the camera. Ready for my clothes, so the face gets river. Don't put me on beats, cause I am not a nigga. My heart is like a powder kid, ready to explode. Smell like strange food, cause I'm a motherless cologne. It started with the hello, then you're a nice fellow. You know I'm like Carmelo, you treat you like a fellow. LA y'all, keep stars, turn around, but you can rock it. When the fuck up, bitch, keep your hands in your pocket. Jordan rules for my life, you can take them, can't stop them. I'm in the sky high, so the clouds can't drop them. I ain't about the audible, my words are just a video. Inevitable, I'm audible, I'm digital, I'm digital. Spit like Komodo, go like Bruce Lee, boy, beating the beat as bad as Bumpo in the dojo. Life is so amazing and raps like Jesus. They said hip hop is dead, but today look like Easter.
for your future.
Joe Biden and Raphael Warnock is bankrupt in this country.
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to the Black Ocean. And as you see on the screen, and if you caught the thumbnail, we must cover the battle of the Bootlicks. It is imperative that we do it. Much respect. Salute to everybody that's in the chat. I see you, Brother Torian Rain, Sister Patricia Jenkins, Jesse Paris for Denver Mayor. Hey, everybody that's coming in, B1 Queensland, salute and welcome to you. As usual, before we get started, ladies and gentlemen, I hope all of you have had a productive weekend thus far. Please do give me a 1 in the chat room or a black fist if you can hear me okay. I want to make sure that the audio is coming through very clear because we got some clowning to do and we got some serious things to cover here at the same time. And for those who are asking while I'm waiting to get clarification that the audio is very clear, the intro song was done by a brother named LAR Movement off of an album that he did called Saga of the Kryptonite Life. In fact, I'm going to put a link to that playlist in the description box. Do go over there and check out the brother's music. I think you'll enjoy it. So a lot of y'all that were asking, that's who did that. The previous intro that I had was done by a brother that's in the chat, CRU Reality. I see you, brother. But yeah, man, we got to do it. Well, we got to do it, man, because see, first and foremost, let's be clear on the state of this Senate race and the outcome of it and what it means for Georgia residents. It's a no-win situation either way, okay? You got two bootlicks, as I said, one for the Democratic Party and one for the Republican Party. One openly deceives people, and the other, I mean, he's not too smart to deceive people without help. But what's going to surprise a lot of you all that didn't catch this debate, I know a lot of people have probably given their takes on it. What I'm going to do, since I'm a Georgia native, I'm going to give you a breakdown on it the way Georgia people see it, especially on Cold Black Georgia. We're going to cover how the dominant society in Georgia sees this. And we're going to cover why being the first black at anything is not always a good idea. It's not always a good idea. In fact, I'm going to go ahead and touch on that now before we get started. Let's get something straight, right? I want all black people to pay attention to what I'm about to say. Sometimes when there are people in the dominant society that have kept black people out of certain positions or like certain places of like employment status, whatever you want to call it, it's only for the reason that, okay, it's a good thing for us now, but whenever they start letting the first black anybody, air quotes, into something's went wrong and no white person really wants to take the fall for that. So that's when they'll let the niggers have it. Yeah, see, and when it comes to this Senate race right here, I want y'all to ask yourself this question, right? Because, you know, this is the common sense sector over here. We like to think critically. Don't you know, or rather, do you not know that both the Democrats and Republicans had white male candidates that they could have run for this Senate seat? Now, ask yourself this. Why is it that neither one of them chose to run and they let two black men run? Because let's be clear, they let them run, okay? It's going to be for a couple of reasons. There's some things that they got going on that they're going to try to push through in Georgia that they don't really want to be taking the fall for. So, as I just described, put a nigger up there. Put a nigger up there. But see, a lot of these buck dancing sambos don't think that far ahead. And not just politicians, but I'm telling everybody in this chat room that's coming in here. Sometimes when they offer you something and you the first one, you better really make sure you understand why they're doing that. But without further ado, we're going to get on with this debate, man, because see, I know a lot of you that have watched this. I know what y'all here for, man. Herschel Walker, man. Hey, but you know, I'm going to translate his Herschelese. That's what we'll call it, Herschelese. He's got his own language, so I'm going to translate for you. We're going to break it down. Let's go ahead and get started, man. We're going to have some fun over here, but we're going to break down some serious things today.
The people of Georgia have a real choice about who they think is ready to represent them.
Vying for your vote? the first black senator to represent the state of Georgia, Democrat Raphael Warnock.
You send me back to the Senate. You have my word. I will keep fighting.
Working to defeat him, businessman and Heisman Trophy winner, Republican Herschel Walker.
There's no doubt we have problems in this country.
Who do you trust in Washington? Every word these men say tonight matters. Live from Plant Riverside District in Savannah, this is the Georgia U.S. Senate debate.
Welcome to Debate Night in America. I'm your host, Leland Vittert from News Nation. In 2020, Georgia decided the balance of power in the United States Senate, and it might well again. The stakes could not be higher. Tina Taya Shaw, anchor at WSAV here in Savannah, and Buck Lanford, anchor at Fox 5 in Atlanta, will moderate tonight's debate. We are joined by a live studio audience. They have agreed to hold their cheers and applause until the end of tonight's debate. We also welcome our viewers across the country watching on News Nation, and voters here in Georgia joining us on 5 Nexstar stations and several partner stations across the region. Before we get started with tonight's topics, the rules. Senator Warnock, Mr. Walker, you will each have 60 seconds for opening statements and 60 seconds to answer each question. If there's a follow-up or rebuttal, you will have 30 seconds.
Now, I paused it real quick, right? Because I'm going to ask you all for a favor, right? No matter what religion or spirituality you subscribe to, I'm going to need y'all to pray for Georgia, man, because, you know, as you're going to see during this debate, Herschel Walker stands a good chance of winning. He really does. I mean, a lot of people don't think so, but I'm going to show you why he does by the end of this. But I just need some prayers here because, see, you know, this is the frying pan of the fire that we trap between over here. You know, I mean, the Peach State going to need some prayers. So I just want to go ahead and put some prayer hands in the chat or something because we're going to need them over here.
When time's up, you'll hear this bell. Each candidate will also have 60 seconds for a closing statement. And with that, it is time to get underway. Tina and Buck, the floor is yours.
Leland, thank you very much. Senator Warnock, Mr. Walker, good evening to you both. We appreciate you being here, and we look forward to hearing from you both tonight. And for those of you at home that are following along, we'd like for you to use the hashtag GASEN debate. Once again, it's hashtag GASEN debate.
Good to see you as well, gentlemen. We began tonight with opening statements. A card draw determined who will go first. Mr. Walker, we will begin with you. You have 60 seconds.
First, I'd like to acknowledge my Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ. I'm one of 7 kids, born and raised in Wrightsville, Georgia. My parents taught me about faith, family, education, and the love of country. They also taught me about a good work ethic, and because of that, I found the America's dream. But this race ain't about me.
Okay, so look, right. We all know Herschel Walker looks like Shrek with a bad hairline and a haircut, man. And look, man, the suit. The brother ain't broke. He could have got a tailored suit, man. You coming on TV, but I wanted to point out something to you, right? Because we got jokes, but I'm going to show you all the strategy that they did. Because I got to give his conservative and Republican handlers, I did not think he was going to do as well as he did in this debate. They cleaned him up as good as anybody could clean him up, man, as far as like getting that little CTE brain of his to function. But when he opened that statement, thanking, you know, God and everything like that. See, let me explain something to y'all about why that was a smart thing to do, because a lot of people not from here wouldn't get that. A lot of people actually don't think he won the debate. I'm here to tell you, yes, he did. Down here in Georgia, you need to understand that this is not a red state. Let me make that clear for everybody that was running around talking about this is a red state. This has never been a red state. It wasn't flip blue. It never will be. So the greater majority of, you know, the dominant society here is staunchly conservative. Staunchly conservative. The greater majority of your Democratic voters would be in the city of Atlanta, but see, that doesn't speak for the surrounding areas of Georgia outside of Atlanta. So that's the part that y'all need to understand if you're not from here. So when you start talking about Jesus, hey, a lot of these white conservatives gonna eat that up. And by the same token, we already know in our community, most of our people, a lot of our people across the nation, white Jesus and Democrat. So, you know, his handlers made sure that he understood that, because believe it or not, even though the Republican Party does not court our voters like that in black society, they do understand us. Let's be clear. Both political parties invest an extreme amount of money in trying to study us and figure out how we're going to move and like politics and what have you. So that's what they told him to do, so he can appeal to that boomer crowd, and so he can appeal to the white Jesus, vote blue no matter who crowd. So what you heard him start out saying, that was a political strategy, right? And it was one that's going to prove to help him throughout this debate, because see, a lot of people, even though he was talking about America's dream when he meant the American dream, I mean, bless his poor heart, man. He was struggling to talk, but he was effective. So I just wanted to point that out before we get on with this. Let's let him continue.
It's about what Raphael Warnock and Joe Biden had done to you and your family. Tonight, he's going to try to sweet talk you that he's doing a good job, but his record speaks for itself. I'm here to tell you that they've raised your taxes, gave you high inflation. They even put men and women's sports. And I want to let you know that Raphael Warnock, we give him 6 more years. Think what he's going to do. So I'm here.
I got to do it. How many of y'all in here familiar with the fighting game Street Fighter? Any one of them? You remember when you was in that game and you was fighting, man, and the computer got the whooping on your ass, and you had stars and birds and stuff around your head? Don't Herschel Walker look like he's in a constant state like that, like just constantly dizzy? I'm just saying. I'm gonna let him continue.
To fix it.
Mr. Walker, thank you. Senator Warnock, we turn now to you for your opening statement. You have 60 seconds.
Well, thank you so very much, and hello, Georgia. It's so wonderful to be back here in my hometown. Now, I know that we're in a debate tonight, but really I come with a deep heart filled with gratitude, probably because I grew up about a mile from here in the Caton Homes housing projects. I'm one of 12.
Look at Warnock, y'all. Don't little buddy look like a living Mr. Potato Head? Look, I know I'm being petty about this because, you know, like I said, we're going to break down the serious stuff, but seriously, picture Mr. Potato Head and put that side by side up there with his head and tell me that's not his twin. I believe he was like some type of living experiment that they did, you know what I'm saying? Mr. Potato Head come to life with his bootlicking ass, man. I mean, this dude, man, both of them are what they would rather hold up as the image of black manhood, a bootlicking slime ball like Warnock, and a brain dead moron like Herschel Walker, because see, both of them can be controlled. That's first and foremost. And then neither one of them is going to buck the system, so they don't look at them as a threat. Whether you believe it's real or not, I'll tell you something that I've told a lot of people that I've had discussions with this debate about. It's kind of like what you see in the Willie Lynch letter. They want black men to be brain dead, stupid, and controllable. You're going to see a lot of that in this debate, but nonetheless, I got to agree with a brother in the chat. Herschel Walker took this thing. Let's let him continue.
Children in my family. Clearly, my preacher parents read the Bible. Be fruitful and multiply. When I think about the arc of my life, the short distance and the long distance from there to here, I know that only in America is my story possible. My family taught me the importance of hard work and how to build the beloved community that Dr. King used to talk about, and I brought that spirit to the Senate. At the end of the day, this race is about who's ready to represent Georgia in the U.S. Senate. I think that choice is clear, and I look forward to having that discussion tonight.
Thank you, Senator Warnock. Gentlemen, we have a lot to get to this hour. So we will start tonight with the most important issues facing Georgia voters.
Our next star, Emerson College The Hill poll shows the economy, threats to democracy, and abortion access are the top three.
Now, let me seriously address this for a minute right here. Right here in the state of Georgia, take a close look at that top issue, economy. And we've all heard that saying throughout the years in politics, it's the economy, stupid. Let me tell you why that's very important here. And a lot of people that have moved down to Georgia from other places can attest to this. The reason why the economy is a big issue here, as it is across the nation, but especially here in this state, if you do your research, this state is about 30% cheaper to live than any other state in the country. So a lot of people, when they move down here, especially if they had good jobs, good careers, they transfer their jobs down here, you find that your money goes a lot further. You can buy larger, nicer homes for less money. Okay, you can get land cheaper down here. I mean, regardless of what a lot of y'all think, y'all hear a lot of people make little jokes and stuff. You have a lot of black landowners down here in the state of Georgia, especially the further south that you go, right? So the economy here for a lot of people, black folks, white folks, man, people are not used to this inflation, right? I mean, you know, people are starting to look at this like, hey, whoa, this is almost becoming like living in some of these other places that people are running from because they're hemorrhaging money, especially if you out there in California or you up there in New York, two of the places with the highest real estate in the country, paying all this ridiculous rent price. Okay, so you do have a lot of things going up down here, but it's not unbearable to the point where you have to be looking crazy and making decisions about which thing you're going to get. People are just now starting to experience that with that inflation. So that's the reason why the economy is the biggest issue here. Okay. So the rest of those two issues right there, as you can see by the numbers, man, most people are like, okay, either or, but what we going to do about getting this inflation down and getting this economy straightened out? And see, one of the reasons why the dominant society is so concerned about it, they're at the top of the socioeconomic food chain across the nation. But the reason why they're so concerned about it down here in the South, listen, I'm going to tell y'all something, man. These white folks live like royalty down here, man. I mean, I'm trying to tell you, even the ones that are dirt broke and poor, they're not too far removed from somebody in their family that has, you know, $100,000, $150,000 on hand to give them. Okay. I mean, even some of the ones that don't look like they got money. Right. So even though they're not hurting, they're uncomfortable because now they can't go take these extra vacations and do all this other stuff that they had going on. Now, black folks down here, as you know, like the saying goes, when white society, you know, catches the cold, black society catches the flu. That is very true down here for a number of people who are not in the middle class, especially. All right. And see, it's putting a strain on the people that did happen to make it out of the middle class and what you can consider well-to-do black people down here. So a lot of people are uncomfortable about that. I just wanted to point that out, that the number one issue here is the economy, right? And as far as it pertains to on cold black society, this is why I'm telling people Stacey Abrams is going to lose. She's not offering anything tangible to our community, so she's not going to get any grassroots support from Generation X. She's not going to get any grassroots support from the millennials. Most of her support is going to come from old boomers who vote blue no matter who and white Jesus. And it's going to come from the more crafty elderly Democrats that would like to put a bootlick and puppet in place. But that's not going to happen for several reasons. I'm going to point that out a little bit later, but let's let them continue.
Issues. We're going to begin tonight with the economy. Everyday Georgians are struggling. They're struggling to pay for food, gas, child care, housing. This week, the inflation rate continues to rise. Mr. Walker, we're going to start with you. You've been openly critical, blaming President Biden and the Democrats for inflation and for the economy. If elected, what is one idea that you would champion to reduce inflation? We ask you to be specific. You have 60 seconds.
Well, first of all, you have to blame this administration and Senator Warnock because within 2 years, this inflation has gotten worse. They cut our energy independence. They also raised taxes. And at the same time, they reckless spending all our money. So he would sit here tonight and say that he's doing a good job for us. And you ask me, what is one job I would do to help the inflation? First of all, we got to become independent, energy independent again. And the reason why, we're going to our enemies to ask for gas and oil. And that puts us not just in an inflation problem, but it puts us in a national security problem. And I think that's something that I think Senator Warnock need to realize. And he mentioned that he grew up here in Savannah with 12 siblings. Well, in this area, Most people live paycheck to paycheck. And we have inflation the way he's brought inflation on. How in the world can you buy grocery or gas for your family?
A follow-up question.
Yes, I know, ladies and gentlemen. He said area when he meant in this era. He meant era as in the time period. But see, here's the thing about it, though. His handlers did a great job of, Herschel Walker I'm speaking of, his handlers did a great job of making sure that he memorized everything. And I do believe he has a couple of notes up there. But I gotta say it, man. I'm gonna give the man credit where it's due. I'm not voting for either one of them because it's a lose situation for Georgia. This is the time when you would strategically hold your vote when there's nothing in it for you. You don't want to be the tree voting for the axe in any situation. I mean, the rest of you can do what you want, but for me, I withhold my vote in situations like this where it's a no-win situation. However, when it comes to everything that he's going to hammer Warnock on, I'm going to put some in y'all head as we go on with this, right? Raphael Warnock spent the greater majority of this debate, with the exception of one issue, acting like a cheating wife or a cheating husband that you caught with red-handed evidence and you ask them direct questions and they don't answer anything. Basically, you know what they should have started playing, man? How many of y'all remember that song by Shaggy, It Wasn't Me? That's what they should have started playing with Warnock, man. I'm telling you, man. If it wasn't such a serious issue, man, it would be completely comical. But hey, y'all gonna see what I'm talking about. Let's let him continue.
To that, Mr. Walker, most economists say that cutting government spending is the first step in economic recovery. I would want to ask you, would you consider cutting military funding or spending on social services to accomplish this goal? And you have 30 seconds.
I would not think about cutting military spending because first, I believe in peace through strength. Right now, we're at a brink of war. And I think right now with Senator Warnock, who he and Joe Biden, they don't show any strength. And we have to protect this country. And I said early on, right now, because we're giving our energy up to enemies that don't like us, we have to be ready for war. This is not a playground. So we have to be ready for war right now.
Thank you, Mr. Walker. Senator Warnock, since President Biden has taken office, inflation has reached levels that we haven't seen in 40 years. You've supported nearly every piece of legislation that this administration has pushed through Congress. Do you take any responsibility for the financial hardships currently that Georgians are facing? And you have 60 seconds.
There's no question that people are feeling pain at the grocery store, at the pump, at pharmacy counters. And while we are paying record prices, a lot of our corporate actors are seeing record profits in the oil and gas industry and the pharmaceutical industry, which is why I've stood up for ordinary, hardworking Georgia families time and time again. I passed the single largest tax cut, contrary to what my opponent is suggesting, for middle and working class families in American history. And we passed the Inflation Reduction Act, which had two of my provisions. One, caps the cost of prescription drugs for seniors so they don't have to choose between buying medicine and buying groceries. And one caps the cost of insulin. He said he would not have voted for the Inflation Reduction Act, and I think he should tell the people of Georgia why he thinks they should have expensive insulin and why the pharmaceutical companies should be able to charge us whatever they like.
Well, first of all, may I respond? I believe in reducing insulin, but at the same time, you got to eat right. Because he may not know, and I know many people that's on insulin, and unless you have eating right, insulin is doing you no good. And so you have to get food prices down, and you got to get gas down so they can go get insulin. And you continue to pat yourself on the back, but right now, families are starving. Right now, families are hurting, and they're hurting because of the bills and the laws you're passing right now.
Senator Warnock, I'll give you an opportunity for a rebuttal.
Okay, so I'm gonna pause it right there. I know y'all got to bear with the Herschelese that he's speaking, but see, here's the thing, right? While a lot of people was making fun of Herschel Walker by the way he was sounding and the way he was speaking, if you live here in this state, the white people understood what he was talking about. Okay, white people and elderly people with some sense, to even the ones that were bootlicks down here. Because see, that's another thing a lot of y'all don't realize about this state. A lot of the bootlicks that were down here that are in that old club, some of them have actually started to wake up and be like, okay, I can't even afford the bootlick no more. I can't afford to vote blue no matter who if I'm not going to get anything for it. and I can't vote red instead if I'm not going to get nothing for it. So what he was talking about were the issues that people actually have to deal with like that. They understood everything that he was saying, right? I mean, we can clown him all day long, but see, when you polish somebody like him up enough to just keep him focused on the issues, this is where he whooped Warnock's ass at. I mean, the whole debate, y'all gonna see that, man. Like I said, I got to call it like it is. I'm being objective about it, but I mean, I'll tell you what, during the course of this presentation, because we're gonna run through the whole thing, I want anybody in here at the end of this to tell me if they think that Raphael Warnock beat Herschel Walker on anything. I mean, because when you don't directly answer somebody's question, and see, before we get on further into this is something I want to impart into everybody that's coming in. And if you're just coming in, please do like, share, and subscribe if you're new here. I want black society to mature to the point that when you see someone talking to you, especially a politician like Raphael Warnock, they're asked direct questions, they can't give you a direct answer. Shout out once again to our brother Greg Marcel Dixon that confronted this bastard in Savannah before this debate. Okay, I mean, when you see somebody treating our people like that, then they give priority to the dominant society. For those of you that probably saw that footage of brother Marcel's, you have to make sure that you enact a penalty for them. And that penalty is not giving them your vote. And when they send people canvassing, trying to get your vote, you explain to them why. And you remind them that people in office are public servants. They're not our rulers. We pay taxes. We pay their salary. They work for us. And see, far too often black people forget that. We just get so used to being kicked around that we don't think that we're supposed to have any type of power. But that's going to have to change. That's going to have to change. This is why, if you're able to make it to the FBA reparations rally on November 5th, next month coming up, I strongly advise you that you attend, because it's going to be a history-making event that we control the narrative of. They're not going to be able to claim everybody out there is Russian bots. Okay, so while we get ready to continue this, I want y'all to pay attention to something, right? For those of you that probably remember that Democratic memo that was leaked, pay attention to how Warnock conducts himself in the evasion of answering all direct questions, and see if that's not reminiscent of the Democratic modus operandi. I just want y'all to keep that in mind as we go forward here. Let's let them continue.
I meet people all the time in my church who are trying to manage their diabetes. I've been there when they've gotten the news that they've got to get an amputation. And I think we're hearing from my opponent tonight that it's their fault that prices of insulin are being gouged. I don't think it's their fault. I think it's the fault of these pharmaceutical companies. Insulin's been around 100 years. The patent was sold for $1. They're engaged in price gouging, and too many people in Washington think they work for the pharmaceutical companies. I work for the people of Georgia.
Well, he's in Washington.
Can I finish? I work for the people of Georgia.
Yeah, but you're in Washington.
And that's why I stand up for them every
you're
single
in Washington,
day.
And you're the leader.
Mr. Walker, let's move forward if we can. A follow-up question to you, Senator, in 30 seconds. Georgians need help right now. In your opinion,
Right.
is the answer another stimulus check, or is there a better option out there to deal with this right now?
We
Need to point something else out to you, ladies and gentlemen. The white moderator, the white guy that's talking to Warnock, in case a lot of you haven't picked up on that yet, he is an example of a staunch white male Georgia conservative. If a lot of you didn't catch that, I want you to pay attention to his tone, his demeanor. Again, what I always tell y'all when I try to teach you about how to watch and study media, especially with the dominant society, I want you to look at this man's face when he asks Warnock these questions, especially on the issues that he's going to hammer him with. I want to teach you all how to read these people, because that'll come in handy when they come up to you and they approach you about things. You need to learn how to read these people from a distance. But I just want to point that out. I want y'all to pay attention to this.
passed the Inflation Reduction Act. He's already told you he would vote against it.
It didn't reduce inflation.
He's already told you that he doesn't believe in capping the cost of prescription drugs for people like my 84-year-old mother.
No,
I don't think they should. I don't think she should have to choose.
Let's let him talk.
Yes.
You'll get a second.
I don't think she should have to choose between buying medicine and
Pay attention to that weasel tactic that he tried to use. See, as you all have heard me and many others in New Black Media tell you, voting is a business transaction. His mother's situation shouldn't have even been brought up, because this is about your constituency. This is about the people that have put you in office and how you're failing us here in this state deliberately, okay? Because he's the fall guy. He's in place to do as much damage as possible to keep a white face off of it. Again, that goes back to what I said at the beginning of this broadcast. Anytime that they say the first black, you better be very suspicious of why they're allowing that after so many years of not having a black person in there, okay? Because one thing about this country right here, racism and white supremacy does not change its modus operandi. That's the good thing about where we are now. They don't have any new plays to run. So that's a dirty trick that a lot of politicians will use. They'll try to bring up something personal about themselves to make themselves relatable. But at the end of the day, if you're someone that has elected a public servant to do a job and they're not doing a good job, their personal issues aren't our problem. And see, a lot of black people are going to have to grow callous like that because this is business. Business isn't about personal feelings. So I just wanted to point that dirty tactic out that he tried right there. Let's let him continue.
Buying groceries. And that's why I've stood up for her, and I've stood up for hardworking families every single day. And I've stood against the corporations that are being bad actors. They're seeing record profits in the middle of the pandemic. And who exploits a pandemic?
Gentlemen, we need to move on to our next.
He asked the question, right? He asked who exploits a pandemic. Now, if y'all caught my previous broadcast, you know what I'm about to drop in this chat, right? I'm about to drop the website, fec.gov, so that you can go on there and look up your bootlick politicians and see which corporations own them. See, you need to understand something. I'm going to say this again. The corporations own your politicians. The corporations own your politicians. Our grandmaster teacher and elder, Dr. Claude Anderson, taught us this. Go on that site or bookmark that site and type in any politician's name, no matter where you're checking in from, and start looking at the corporations that donate to them. That's who controls and owns your politicians. I just want to make that clear. So while Warnock is pretending as if he's feeling all downtrodden and sorrowful and like, oh boy, I just nothing I can do. Those are his buddies. They own his little peanut head ass. Just want to make sure y'all are clear on that, okay?
Topic in the interest of time, so that's election integrity. Tina, it's all yours.
All right, Buck, thank you. Senator Warnock, this question is for you. You have said the new Georgia voting laws implemented after the 2020 election create many obstacles for underserved communities. Yet, there was record turnout in Georgia in the primary this May. According to research done by the Brennan Center for Justice, the African American vote grew approximately 50% from 2018 to 2022's primaries. Senator, can you explain how the law negatively impacts minority votes? You have 60 seconds, sir.
So I have spent my whole career long before coming to the Senate fighting for voting rights, because I believe that a vote is a kind of prayer for the world we desire for ourselves and for our children. We read.
Okay, this is another issue that pisses me off when they try to pull this, the Democrats in particular, when they start talking about voting rights. And I'm going to give y'all a strategy to handle anybody that approaches you trying to win your vote and they start talking about voting rights and what they need to secure voting rights. This is something I want to see black people nationwide start to enforce and emphasize. The next time some buck dancing clown approaches you talking about voting rights, this is how you shoot them in the foot with that. Tell them, okay, since you so concerned about our voting rights, then instead of us having to vote to renew that act every 25 years, how about you take your punk ass back to the Congress, the Senate, or wherever, and vote for it to be a permanent amendment in the Constitution. White people don't have to have their voting rights restored every 25 years. That's how you shoot that in the foot. So when they start trying, see, a lot of times they have a bunch of canned ham talking points that a lot of people are not accustomed to challenging. This is how you shoot that in the foot. You bypass all the BS and you be like, okay, since you care about that so much, then let's stop voting on it every 25 years and make it a permanent amendment in the Constitution. That's how you deal with that. The other part that I don't like about what he just said, and a lot of people have pointed this out, he's trying to blend in religious influence with politics. First and foremost, you should not be able to be a pastor and in politics. What happened to separation of church and state? Okay, it's not illegal for him to register people to vote in his church. He's just not supposed to tell them which way to vote. But see, either way, That's something else that we have control of in black society. See, this is how you deal with somebody like Warnock and these pastor pork chop preachers, because he's not the only one that's dabbling in politics and in religion at the same time. We can take a firm stance and say, listen, you can't do both. You can't do both. Either you're going to be a pastor in this church or a politician. Which one you're going to have to do? It's not going to be both, because that's not something that should be blended. There's a reason why it's a separation of church and state. So I just wanted to point that out. I want y'all to listen to this weasel, because I call him Weasel Warnock. I just want y'all to pay attention to all this goofiness that's about to come out of his mouth during this debate.
Just the people that vote in my church. And in the Senate, I've stood up for democracy because that's the framework in which we get to fight for all of the things we care about. There is no question that SB 202 makes voting harder, and that is the intent. And the fact that many of our voters are overcoming this hardship doesn't undermine that reality. They've made it harder for folks to use the drop boxes. They've shortened the registration times. Folks are saying, you shouldn't have to, you should be able to get food or water in a line. I think the question is more fundamental than that. Why are the lines so long in certain communities and not others? And so I just want to encourage Georgia voters to keep showing up. Don't let anybody take your voice. Don't let anybody take your vote. It took too much to get here, and
notice what he said. I just want y'all to keep showing up. Oh yeah, see, and that's the party line to toe right there. Just keep showing up, even though you don't get nothing. We get, anytime we ask for something, oh, you gotta wait. It's gotta be a study. So I just want y'all to pay close attention to the words that he's saying, because see, contrary to popular belief, a lot of people have these goofy stereotypes about this state. Let me tell you something, man. And I want all of y'all to pay attention in here right now, whether you from this state or not. And when I say from this state, I'm talking to those of you that move here from other places. One thing that all Georgians pay attention to, this is one common denominator that we all do have. When you start fucking with our money, you're going to get everybody attention then. I mean, all those little stereotypes go right out the window. You want to see Georgia people focus, start playing with our money down here and see what happens. So that's something I want to get cleared up right now. So let's let them continue.
I'm honored to represent you in the United States Senate.
Senator Warnock, thank you. Mr. Walker, we move to you now. In 2020, Georgia became the epicenter for questions on voter fraud. We'd like to hear your thoughts in 60 seconds. Did President Biden defeat former President Donald Trump in 2020? Again, sir, you have 60 seconds.
Well, first of all, I need to mention that he said that SB 202, really it made it easier to vote and harder to cheat. And she mentioned that more people turned out for the primary. So you gotten good in Washington not answering the question, because that was the question she asked you. And did President...
Oh boy, this to me, this was the beginning of the end for Warnock in this debate. But again, I have to give Herschel's handlers credit. Even though it's hard to understand his Herschelese for a lot of y'all, I'm going to translate it as best as I can. He basically pointed out something that is an actual fact, because if you think back to the news, right, there were a lot of black people that were on that vote blue no matter who train that got caught up in running that little con game that they had going on down here. Because yes, there was some funny business with that situation. There really was. I keep telling y'all, the reason why they was running around hollering, oh, we flipped Georgia blue. Everybody down here was like, how in the fuck that happened? So, he's actually telling the truth right there. I just got to give the man credit for when he speaks the truth. The truth doesn't care who tells it. Okay. And see, that's a one trick pony. They'll never be able to pull what they did with that election between Trump and Biden again, because see, they got one over on the Republicans. They really did. They really did get one over the Republicans down here in that state when it came to that. Because like, if you just go back and pull up the results of that, and remember when that long pause came in when they was waiting on the numbers between Trump and Biden again, for those just coming in, I'm not a liberal or a conservative. I don't support either party. I support who is offering tangibles for our people. I'm just pointing out the facts. So what he's mentioning about them tightening up those loopholes where they were making it harder for people to get away with what they were doing, that's actually on point. And a lot of the dominant society down here that are staunch conservatives, they were waiting to see if he was going to have the balls to address that. No matter how ham-handedly he did it, they got it in his brain to like, make sure you hammer him on this if he tries to come at you like that. So I just wanted to break that part down. Let's let him continue.
Biden win,
That is the
President Biden
question.
won, President Biden won, and Senator Warnock won. That's the reason I decided to run. Because we need a change in Washington. We need leaders that's going to stand up to foreign leaders. We need people that's going to stand up for people in Georgia. Because Senator Warnock, he went to Washington, but he forgot about Georgia. And I want to stand for the people of Georgia. He just mentioned he's standing for the people of Georgia, but can he tell me why he voted with Joe Biden 96% of the time if he was standing for Georgia? That tells you that he...
That's actually correct. If you look that up, Warnock did vote with Joe Biden 96.4% of the time on any and everything. That's public record. That's the part that shocked me, that he was able to remember these numbers. I got to give the man credit. They did an excellent job with getting him to remember this type of information, even though I'm sure he probably has notes up there on that podium. But, you know, this is something that's going to come back to bite this man Warnock several times in this debate. I mean, I just want y'all to count the times that he hit Warnock with something and he didn't have the proper counter for it. Because, see, this is one thing about reality in life. Politicians, no matter how good they are at lying, they can't sway people that keep up with their political record and what they have done and have not done. Okay? If somebody's telling you that everything is just fine, but you can see the roof of your house is on fire, then you know everything's not just fine. Okay? I don't care how good they are with words. You can smell that smoke. You can feel the fire. And if you got any sense, you're going to try to do something to put your roof out. If you got any sense. But let's let them continue.
For Joe Biden, I'm for Georgia.
Mr. Walker, thank you. Now, before we move on, gentlemen,
I'd like to respond to that.
I will give you that opportunity, sir.
It is,
I will give you that opportunity, Senator. You have 15 seconds to respond.
it is very clear that my opponent would rather be running against anybody except me. But
I'm
either
happy
me,
to run
there
against
are only
you.
two people who are going to sit in this seat, either me or my opponent. And I think this race is about who's ready to represent the people of Georgia, and I'm thinking about them every single day.
But if he cut from the same cloth at 96% of the time, I'm running he and Joe Biden because they're the same.
Gentlemen,
I know. I run a he and Joe Biden because they're the same. Yeah. What? See, let's translate the Herschelese. The Herschelese in that portion, ladies and gentlemen, he was basically trying to say, if you vote for Joe Biden 96% of the time, I'm running against him and Joe Biden. That's the translation of the Herschelese that was being spoken there. I know. Bear with me on this, y'all, because you know we got to go through this here. I want to break this down from a perspective of somebody that lives here, that's gonna cover some things a lot of other people that broke this down missed. Because trust me. Well, by the time we get to the end of this, y'all gonna have a better understanding of how Georgia politics work, specifically with the dominant society, because that's what I'm gonna cover here. A lot of people not from here. I ain't talking about people that pass through here every now and again. Talking about people that live here that can tell you exactly what's going on and how these people view these things. Because see, regardless of how silly and idiotic Herschel Walker looks, let me tell y'all something about white supremacy and white power in this country, right? They don't mind getting a bumbling buffoon from any race to do their bidding, as long as you're able to do it effectively. As long as they have a use for you as a tool, they don't care about how you look publicly. That's not their concern. See, those people do not think about things in the same terms that we do in black society. They think power oriented. And that's why it's so important for us to be on code as a people, because that's the only true counter to that. As I said in my previous broadcast, in my opinion, the most on code people in this country are the small hats. That's the level of codification we need to reach. And when we reach that level of codification and start practicing powernomics, like Dr. Claude Anderson taught us, that's when a great deal will start to change for our people in this country. But let's let them continue.
gentlemen, we are moving on now. This next question, this is a yes or no response, and this is for both of you. Senator Warnock, yes or no, regardless of who wins in November, will you accept the outcome?
Yes.
And Mr. Walker, regardless of who wins in November, will you accept the outcome?
Yes.
Thank you very much. Gentlemen, Buck, over to you.
Thank you, Tina. We turn now to the topic of abortion. We're going to start with you, Mr. Walker. A week before this debate, a former girlfriend made public accusations saying you paid for an abortion and that you encouraged her to have another. In an ABC News interview this week, you said that the accusations are, quote, all lies. For the voters watching tonight, can you explain the circumstances surrounding these claims? You have 60 seconds.
Well, as I said, that's a lie. And, you know, what most thing I put it in a book. One thing about my life is I've been very transparent. Not like the senator. He's hid things. But at the same time, I said that's a lie. And on abortion, you know, I'm a Christian. I believe in life. And I tell people this, Georgia is a state that respects life, and I'll be a senator that protects life. And I said that was a lie.
So let me point something else out to you all here that gained Herschel Walker a great deal of points, especially with the dominant society, because see, a lot of people now from here don't know how these people think. Again, no matter how ridiculous he sounds or looks, when somebody accuses you of something, one thing that people respect here primarily in this state is you being able to give a full-throated denial of something if you know that it's false. Okay, so now in his case, it could be true or false, but either way, he gave a direct answer to that statement. He didn't tap dance around it. He didn't try to evade the question or try to use any type of semantic sleight of hand. The man gave you a full-throated answer. So now for me, even though I'm not voting for either one of them, I can respect that about any man. When somebody asks you a direct question, you give them a direct answer. Because, see, you can answer somebody, but if it's not a direct answer in correlation to the question they asked, then you just babbling and talking, which is pretty much what Warnock is going to do for the rest of this debate here. So, yeah, I just want to point that part out. That part right there, believe it or not, it might seem insignificant, but that gained him a great deal of respect amongst the white conservatives here because they saw those things out there in the media. And let me point something else out to you, right? Because a lot of you that are in here, a lot of y'all are very well informed. Y'all saw the stuff that his son, you know, Christian Walker was saying about him. Let me tell you why what Christian said actually worked to Herschel's advantage. This is going to blow a lot of y'all mind. Let me show you something, right? The greater majority of like conservative white Georgians and most socially conservative black people are not with that foolishness that the Democratic Party promotes with the kaleidoscope community agenda down here. So when Christian came out attacking him, let me tell you what white people saw down here. They didn't listen to anything that he said. I want y'all to follow me. They did not listen to anything that Christian Walker was saying as if to determine whether it was true or false. All they saw was, okay, his son is gay and he's attacking him. And if he won't put up with his foolishness or co-sign it, then that means that he definitely won't go along with these Democratic policies that we don't like. That is how white people view that. A lot of people probably have not pointed that out to y'all because they were so busy joking on Herschel and his Herschelese, which is hilarious. Always hilarious. But that's exactly how they see that. So that actually worked in Herschel's favor. A lot of y'all probably never thought about it that way, but I'm telling you how these people think down here. I know these rednecks in this state from top to bottom, but let's let them continue.
And I'm not backing down. And you have Senator Warnock, people that would do anything and say anything for this seat, but I'm not going to back down because this seat is too important to the Georgia people for me to back down right now.
You've been vocally pro-life, supporting a ban on abortions without exceptions. Would you support a complete ban on a national level?
Well, first of all, see, that's not true either. I said I support the heartbeat bill. And I said I support the Georgia heartbeat bill because that's the bill of the people from Governor Kemp. And I said that has exceptions in it. I said I'm a Christian, but I'm also representing the people of Georgia. And that's who I represent. So what the people of Georgia stand for, I'm going to stand with them.
Thank you, Mr. Walker. Senator Warnock, you said repeatedly that the exam room is too small for the patient, her doctor, and the U.S. government. We're asking you to take a clear position right now. Do you believe there should be any limitations on abortion set by the government? And you have 60 seconds.
I think that the women of this country and the women of this state woke up one summer morning and a core protection that they've known for 50 years was taken from them by an extremist Supreme Court. And I stand where I've said I stand in the past, that a patient's room is too narrow and small and cramped a space for a woman, her doctor, and the United States government. We are witnessing right now what happened.
Problem, Warnock. Problem, big problem. You gave quite the list of who would be in the room, except for black fathers. Okay. See, I'm going to say something, and a lot of people probably not going to like it, but I don't give a damn if you don't like it or not. Over here, I'm going to tell you the truth, whether you like it or not. You can unsubscribe. You can get mad. Let me explain some about this issue of deletion in our community. Because, yes, first and foremost, a lot of the reasons are economic, but we got to go to the root of it. The root of it is, I don't care how you feel about this outside of somebody forcing themselves on you, okay, outside of a life-threatening pregnancy, and outside of, like, I hate to even say the word, family members abusing you, we'll put it that way. There's really no reason that to justify a deletion of a child, because, ladies, I know not any of you in this chat room, most of you anyway, but you control who you get pregnant by. You do. You can have all the sex you want, but you can't be sexually responsible enough with all these different methods of contraception that you can use. You control who you get pregnant by. You do. So in our community, that has harmed our numbers. That has harmed our numbers very badly. Okay. And see, any man that's worth a damn, let me put this on the men too, because a lot of people just point towards the women when they address this issue. If you a dude out here, a sorry, dusty dude, and you laying down with sisters, and you trying to encourage them to get a deletion, you ain't worth a damn. I hold you to the same standard that I look at them, and y'all know how I feel about them. Y'all have seen me go off about that issue, because see, if it's not somebody forcing themselves on you, if it's not life threatening, you can't just up and decide that I just don't want to be a mother. Okay, well then there's something that you can do if you don't want to be a mother or a father. You don't need to be having sex out here, okay? See, sex is for responsible people. Any of us in this chat room know with the decisions that we make as far as, like, you know, our decisions on who we are going to entertain intimately. We know what's a potential consequence of that, okay? So now, if you're not in a financial position to support a family, preferably go ahead and get married so that it's not a broken home. But if you're not in a position to, at the bare minimum, at least take care of the children that you make, then you shouldn't be out here running around just hopping and diving in anything if you're a man, and you shouldn't be opening your legs up for any and everything if you're a woman. That keeps you from even having to worry about having a deletion, because see, for those of you that are well studied on this issue, let me say this to any of the younger sisters that may find this broadcast, you know, whether you catching it live or recorded. That issue right there, that medical procedure, if we'll call that demonic practice, that the more you get those, that tears your insides up. I'm gonna try to put it that way without being too graphic. That's not something that you should consider lightly, okay? That's not something you should consider lightly. Because see, at the end of the day, what you're doing, and a lot of y'all ain't gonna like to hear this, but as I said, I don't care. I speak the truth over here. The child that you created, if it wasn't for those three exceptions, we all know what they are, it's not that child's fault, okay? I completely understand if somebody forced themselves on you. I would never tell a woman to have a baby by somebody that they forced themselves on. I can understand if you got a nasty, disgusting family member that has been touching on you and pregnancy occurred that way. Or the worst thing that I would not even probably wish on my worst enemy, to have to be in a situation where you have to decide if the child is going to live or if the mother is going to live. I really wouldn't wish that on my worst enemy. I wouldn't. I could not even imagine being in that situation. But I just want to touch on that from a balanced perspective, because see, a lot of people are one-sided with this thing. Like I said, if you're not ready to have children, be careful about, you know, what you're doing out here as a woman. You know, don't be opening your legs up to any and everybody. And as a man, if you're not ready to be a father, don't be diving off in everybody, okay? Accountability with that issue is on both ends. That's the fairest way anybody can put it. A lot of people try to lean to one side or the other. I tell people like this when it comes to issues in our community between black men and black women. If you only fix 2 tires on a car that's got flats, you still have a problem. Okay, you have to fix all 4 flat tires in order for that vehicle to roll right. But let's let them continue. I just wanted to touch on that.
Happens when politicians, most of them men, pile into patients' rooms. You get what you're seeing right now. And the women of Georgia deserves a senator who will stand with them. I trust women more than I trust politicians.
May I respond?
Very quick, Mr. Walker.
Hey, you know, it is, and I heard about him. I heard he was a neat talker. But did he not mention that there was a baby in that room as well? And also, did he not mention that he asked him?
That was actually a masterful comeback. Again, Herschelese aside, that was a masterful comeback. The only way that he would have scored a bigger home run with white conservatives, especially white conservative males, if he would have said, there's a baby and there's also a father that helped make that child. That's what I wish he would have said. That would have completely crushed Warnock. But let's let him continue.
That he asking the taxpayer to pay for it. So he's bringing the government back into the room. So he's not talking about that. Right. So when he mentioned that, it's like I've not seen too many pastors that would say that statement.
Mr. Warnock, I'll give you a chance to rebut.
I am a pastor. I'm a man of faith. And I have a profound reverence for life and a deep respect
Ashley,
for choice. And because I have such...
Ashley Warnock, you can call yourself anything. We live in an age where you can identify and claim anything you want, but I'm going to tell y'all right now, you cannot insult anybody that knows the word or is a Christian and claim that what he's about, the claim that he's about to make, because I'm going to let him say it. You can't do that and claim that you are actually a man of faith and that you following the Most High that's described in that Bible. You can't do that. So I'm going to let him continue, but I just wanted to make my position clear on that because that's just common sense. This whole reality that we live in today where you can just blur the lines between falsehood and truth. Nah, man, don't ever live that way. Always deal with the truth because, see, the minute that you start claiming falsehood is reality, you actually corrupting your own mind and your own spirit. So I just wanted to throw that out there. Let's let him continue.
A profound reverence for life is one of the reasons why I've stood up to address this issue of maternal mortality in our country. We lead all of the Western nations on that front, and black women are 3 to 4 times more likely to die even when they have the insurance and the income. Now that's something government could actually do something about. And I joined with Marco Rubio of Florida to pass a bill to address maternal mortality. The women of Georgia have a clear choice as we're watching women die. Do you want a senator who wants to control your life, or do you want a senator who wants to save your life? Well, I want to save your life.
Well, what?
Now, let's deal with what Warnock did not address when it comes to our sisters' issues in these hospitals, whether it's giving birth or just going in, period. Medical racism, Weasel Warnock. Why didn't you address that? See, a weasel, and that's what I have to call Warnock, a weasel that wants our votes, no matter what party you in, and you're not going to speak up for our people. If you're going to say something about black people as a politician, you damn well better be speaking directly to our issues and the cause of the problems and what you're going to do to solve them. This man has never done that during his tenure as a senator here. And I ain't no look, I'm not saying Herschel Walker is going to do it either, because let's just be clear. If he gets in there, which he stands a good chance, he's just going to be pretty much the rubber stamp man. All right, sign this, Herschel, sign this. This dude, I hate to punch down, but if he can actually read on like a level that's above 5th grade, I would be surprised. But look, we going to let him continue.
I have to respond to this
very quick
because he told me Black Lives Matter, and if you think about it, Senator, in Atlanta, Georgia, there's more black baby that is aborted than anything. So if Black Lives Matter, why are you not protecting those babies? And instead of aborting those babies, why are you not baptizing those babies?
Mr. Warnock, or Senator Warnock, will give you a chance to respond to that.
I think the women of Georgia have a clear choice. He says no exceptions, even in the case of rape, incest, or the life of the mother. I think that's extreme, is out of touch with Georgia, and I intend to do the work that senators can do.
See, he didn't read the heartbeat bill the way he didn't read the heartbeat bill that there is exceptions for that in the heartbeat bill. So when he made a statement.
Now, I know the Herschelese is probably a bit thick, but again, the truth doesn't care who tells it. He's telling the truth. There are exceptions in that Georgia heartbeat bill that allow for, the 3 exceptions in the case of deletion when it comes to children. It's in there. And see, let me tell you something else that men in general, especially in this state, despite our deep racial differences, don't respect. We really don't respect somebody that'll just tell an outright lie on a man. See, down here, this is one of the places where honor actually does mean something to a certain extent on certain issues. Okay, so if you don't like somebody, that's one thing. You have a personal issue with that person. Let your personal issue be separate from telling the facts on something, whether it happened or whether it didn't. Okay, and see what Warnock tried to do right here. He's gonna do it several more times. He really don't understand why Herschel Walker is going to close this debate the way he's going to close it. And we'll see that later on at the end, because I'm going to play that part. I'm going to explain something about that. But let's let him continue.
That is
Mr. Walker,
untrue.
that we need
And
to
I
move
do
on. Okay,
respect
we got
that.
a
Senator,
lot
you have
to
to
get
read
in
that to
tonight.
you.
A follow-up question for you, Senator Warnock. We ask that you take a listen to something that you said at a rally just a couple of weeks ago.
So women, I trust women and their wisdom and their ability to sit with their own doctor. And if they choose, to sit with their pastor. And to pray about that and let their own conscience guide them. Even God gave us a choice.
Even God gave us a choice. Can you clarify what you meant by that? You have 30 seconds.
Now, before Weasel Warnock attempts to say that, let me tell you something. If any of you over here are listening, and if you play this back, if you with the Democratic Party, if you call yourself trying to stump to get votes, let me make something loud and clear, and I'm going to speak on behalf of all black men in this country that have some sense. This whole agenda where you just erase what black men feel and think about important decisions like our children and other issues across the board, we're not putting up with that no more. That's why you don't see black men supporting the Democratic Party in large numbers anymore across the state. I mean, they're losing more and more black men because you've had plenty of time to address our issues and our community as a whole. What you've done is managed to fool some of our gullible women, but see, even they're starting to wake up now and realize that they've been played. And I'm so proud of the sisters that are finally starting to pay attention to the political math and see that they have been using you as puppets to get what they want and you get nothing. But this issue where he started to bring up about pastors making that kind of important decision, I don't know about the rest of y'all in this chat room, but I'm going to tell you something right now. I don't care what faith you're a part of. My spiritual advisor does not run my household. My spiritual advisor does not run my household. You can offer me suggestions, but when it comes to something like that, that's life or death, you don't tell me, you don't even enter into that conversation. In fact, don't say nothing about that unless I come to you. See, this whole thing that they want to promote to our women, and sisters, I want y'all to hear me clearly with what I'm about to say. They like to promote chaos to you, but if you get offended at anything that I'm saying, or if you take issue with it, this is what I want to put this thought on your head. I want to put this thought in your head rather for you to reflect upon. Look at what they promote to you, and then look at what they promote to their community. Okay? Look at what they promote to you, black women, and then look at what they promote to their community and see if those two things are the same. Now, if you do that and you see that those two things are not the same, then you should really question your blind loyalty to these people that don't give us anything tangible. Because see, whether you like it or not, the men of any community are the primary protectors and builders of that community. When the men are economically empowered and doing well and not in a dependent state upon government or anything else, that community thrives. Okay? And see, to speak with balance on the issue of being dependent on the government, let me say this. Black people, foundational black Americans especially, should have no shame if you do need to go to your government for anything because you're a tax-paying citizen. Upon many other issues, okay, we are the most in this country. I will never stop saying that because that's the truth. I just wanted to get that out the way real quick. But let's let Warnock try to defend himself for those of you that haven't seen this yet. But this is despicable to me. This I mean, because I'm not a super religious person, but I do know my Bible very well. And what this man is saying does not add up and does not line up in any scripture in the Bible. I don't care how anybody tries to slice it. Let's let him speak for itself.
Oh, I think it's self-explanatory. God gave us a choice. And I respect the right of women to make a decision. These are medical decisions. They're deeply personal. Women find themselves in a range of circumstances. And this issue has been far too politicized. And we're witnessing right now the chaos that ensues as a result of that. And women right now who may be facing a miscarriage in some cases are wondering what will happen and how will they have to explain that. I think that's deeply problematic. There are enough politicians piling into the rooms of patients, and I don't plan to join them.
But just to clarify, in your opinion, God gave us a choice in regards to abortion.
It is apparent that...
Again, remember what I told you about the white moderator in this debate. Pay attention to the tone of his voice when he's asking these questions. And when the camera pans back over to him, look at his face. I just want to give you a brief reminder of that.
God has given us a range of choices. And the people of Georgia have a choice right now about who they think should represent them in the Senate.
And may I have to respond?
Mr. Walker, we do have to move on to our next
topic. This will be very short, because he's correct. God gave us a choice. But also within the Bible, if you read the Bible more, God said choose life. In the Bible, it says, I give you a choice. Just like Adam and Eve had a choice, but they chose death.
Very quick,
God said you choose.
Mr. Walker, we need to move forward.
I think he wants to arrogate to politicians more power than God has.
All right, gentlemen, thank you. We're going to have to move on to our next topic, okay? Tina?
We are moving on, gentlemen.
Now, for the people that actually believe that this state had been flipped blue, did you hear the moans in that audience from mostly white, because it's mostly a white audience? Did you hear the moans from the white people in the audience? They were moaning and groaning at the foolishness that Raphael Warnock let come out of his mouth. Let me tell you something, man. If y'all don't think Herschel Walker got a good chance of winning this, you really don't understand this state. You really don't. You really don't.
The next topic, and it is about student loans. We turn to Christian Dent, a college student and Nexstar News Nation viewer from Locust Grove, Georgia.
As a college student at the University of Georgia, me and my peers are often faced with confronting the rising costs that come with obtaining a college degree. In the United States Senate, will you support further forgiveness of student loan debt? And if so, how will you implement it in the United States Senate on a federal level?
Our thanks to Christian for that question. Senator Warnock, your answer, please, in 60 seconds.
I wouldn't be standing here tonight if it weren't for low-interest student loans and Pell Grants. And in the years since I've graduated, that path has gotten harder. I ran into a couple on a flight, and they wrote a note for me. They were with their one-year-old son. They said, whatever you do, please do something about this student debt. The mother said, I borrowed $35,000. I paid back $20,000. I still owe $30,000. And that's why I pushed the president to do student debt relief. He did $10,000, and with my urging, he did $20,000 for folks with Pell Grants. I think it was the right move. It will spur entrepreneurship, home ownership. It helps kids in technical schools and vocational schools, not just four-year colleges. But we need reform. We shouldn't be doing this again 10 years from now. And I'm working right now on the kind of reform we need, because college is outpacing the price of everything else in our economy.
A follow-up for you, sir. Why do you believe this should be done through executive action instead of Congress? And also, how would this be funded? You have 30 seconds.
The president has already moved to do student debt relief. And there's additional relief for folks like me who, when they got student loans, were Pell Grant eligible. But there's no question we need reform in the system so that we can get the cost of college underway. We don't find ourselves here again. And that's my position. Thank you.
Senator Warnock, thank you.
Let me go ahead and address this right now, right? See, this is why I try to encourage my people, our people, to look at hard numbers when these politicians get to spewing all this foolishness out of their mouths. let's be clear on something. Yes, there are some black people with college debt, but the greater majority of that would benefit white people. Okay, let's be clear on that. The student loan thing and all of that, I mean, you better believe if they ever did pass that, the people that are going to benefit most from it are going to be wealthy white people that, you know, are finessing the system like our boy Brett Favre. That's why I tell black people, don't you dare be ashamed if you do need the government for anything. You pay taxes just like any other citizen. You don't ever be ashamed to take advantage of anything. So I'm not telling anybody not to take advantage of it. If they do it, just be clear on who it's intended for. Okay. And see what Weasel Warnock here, all this foolishness that he talking. One of the things that I don't like that he keeps trying to do, he keeps trying to, like somebody in the chat room said it, trying to tug at our heartstrings by relating back to personal issues. Let me explain something to y'all about a person in a leadership position. Number one, you are a problem solver if you are an elected public servant. And number two, anytime there's a problem and your constituency asks you about something, whether it's on the campaign trail or right here in this debate, and you can't give direct, straight answers, you will have at that moment proven yourself unworthy of leadership. So the thing that he wasn't realizing here, and again, you know, looking at Herschel, as ridiculous as he looks and sounds, he's doing his best Donald Trump imitation. A lot of y'all probably didn't catch that. He is doing his best Donald Trump imitation. And what I mean by that, he's being a straightforward, straight shooter. He's not dodging anything. He's being aggressive when he counters Warnock on his foolishness. So they did a good job polishing him up. Again, I'm very impressed at that. But let's let him continue.
Thank you, Mr. Walker. To repeat Christian's question, will you support further forgiveness of student loan debt? And if so, how would you implement it?
Well, first of all, you can see
60 seconds, sir. I apologize.
First of all, you can see that Senator Warnock has gotten good at being in Washington, because you asked the question, why did Congress not do it instead of the president doing an executive order, which is what should have been done. And as I was traveling around the state of Georgia, I talked to people. Some people that wanted to go to college, they couldn't. So they ended up going and working on father's farm. Some military wanted to go to college, they didn't. So he went to the military and may have lost an arm. So this is not right. Georgia people say it's not right. They said it's unfair. First of all, how can you transfer someone debt who owe it to someone that don't owe it? And also, Senator Warnock brags about making $400 billion that now the taxpayer, all you in the audience, got to pay for. You got to pay that debt. And I didn't co-sign for anyone's loan. I hope no one out here co-signed for anyone's loan, because I didn't co-sign for anyone's loan. And it's not right, it's not fair.
Mr. Walker, we're continuing with a follow-up for you now, Mr. Walker. College tuition, it skyrocketed 175% over the past 20 years. What will you do to stem the cost of higher education going forward?
Well, first
you
of
have
all,
30 seconds.
First of all, what you should do is get rid of federal funding of any college that raised their costs. Get rid of federal funding of any college that raised their costs. That's the first thing that you should do.
So that is what you would do. We're asking what
any
you
college,
would do.
Well, any college that raised.
Believe it or not, that's actually a good idea. See, here's the thing, right? No matter how silly Herschel Walker looks, and I'm saying that over and over again for a reason, because one thing I want to teach black people how to do over here on this channel is learn how to think business over who you like, over what you feel. The world does not operate off of feelings. It operates off of logic and thought, okay? Again, I'm not voting for either one of these idiots, but I'm just trying to teach you all over here who was the better man in this debate. And if you're dealing with any politician, the one you want to deal with is the one that's giving you straight, direct answers. And that can be whether they're in agreement with trying to meet you on your agenda or if they're against it. The ones that are not even worth taking serious, that you should be completely disrespectful towards, are the ones that can't give you a straight answer, like Weasel Warnock. Let's let them continue.
Raise their costs. I get rid of any federal funding that they're going to get.
Thank you.
You know,
We're moving on.
I find it interesting that folks are
Senator
offended.
Senator Warnock,
yes.
I'm going to give you this one. I'm going to
Thank
give you a
you.
pass for 15 seconds.
I will be very brief, I promise.
Very brief.
It's interesting to me that folks who have been crying about the student debt relief haven't said anything about multi-billionaire corporate entities who've gotten PPP loans. I wonder why Mr.
We're going to move on. We're moving on. Thank you, Senator Warnock. Your time is up, Mr. Walker.
Ladies and gentlemen, there's an old saying that many of you have probably heard before. It was here long before we came here. It's going to be here long after we gone. Do not ever throw rocks if you live in a glass house. He busted his ass on that because that is true and it can be proven. He got a PPP loan. See, this is something that I'm going to say, and I'm going to see what y'all think in the chat about it. We see that Herschel Walker, look, got me, he's rubbing off on me. You can see that Herschel Walker is the poster child for CTE, right? But I'm going to posit something else to you all in the chat. Raphael Warnock isn't too far behind him, man, because look, when you can't, I mean, if Herschel Walker can stay this close on your heels in a debate, that says a lot about your skill as a debater. And I gotta go here with it, man. That says a lot about your skills as a critical thinking person. He better not ever use the term critical thinker ever for any reason. Raphael Warnock, or Weasel Warnock, as I call him. Let's let him continue.
We are moving on. We're going to move on to minimum wage, gentlemen. We have a lot to get through tonight. We've made that clear at the top of the hour. So let's get as many questions as we can in, because Georgia voters want to know where you stand on these issues. They have to make a decision. Let them know tonight. Buck?
Thank you, Tina. Now, according to the U.S. Census Bureau, 14% of Georgians live in poverty. The federal minimum wage is $7.25 an hour, a number that has not increased since 2009. Let's do this by a simple showing of hands. Raise your hand if you support a federal minimum wage. Okay, Mr. Walker, you did not raise your hand, so I'd like to ask you, first of all, why not, and what would you do to help struggling Georgians?
Well, when you said a federal, I think right now, and he said that I want the federal government. No, he wants the federal government to run your life. Right now, I think you have to work with different corporations and see just where they can pay. There are some companies right now, and he should know this, after getting the All-Star game moved out of Atlanta, they destroyed a lot of small businesses. So those small businesses couldn't pay $15, $20 an hour. So they have to pay what they're capable of paying. So to mandate a federal fee that they have to pay hourly wage, no, I couldn't approve that.
Thank you.
Yes, I know the Herschelese is making your head hurt. Try to bear with it, but now see, this is how I know that Herschel Walker is not going to be any good for us, right? Because see, you got a lot of people that's stuck on this idea too. Before I go here, you got a lot of people that are silly enough. A lot of these buck dancing black conservatives, a bunch of macoons, will, if we're not going to vote Democrat, that means we should just vote Republican. No, you vote for who has tangibles in exchange for your vote. The answer that Herschel Walker just gave to that shows you that he's stuck on that bootstrapism crap that the conservatives love to push when it comes to black people, when those are the people over here that have never pulled themselves up by no boots or no straps, ever. Okay? Here's the issue when people bring that up, talking about raising the federal minimum wage. Even if you were going to do it, which I'm in agreement with, you should. Yeah, I mean, the cost of living has gone up. The wages should go up. But see, in addition to that, let me tell you what would have to be done to make sure that it's not something that's going to be nullified. You need to understand how evil corporations are. Because one, there are no corporations in America that are hurting for any money. Don't you believe that bullshit? If you seen how some of these CEOs of these corporations live, when they start complaining about money, what they're complaining about is they're not going to be able to take that extra vacation that they used to take. They're going to have to cut back a little bit. They're not going to be able to take care of their little mistresses that they got on the side. That's what that means. They don't mean that, they're about to go bankrupt or anything like that. Anytime you see a corporation in this country go bankrupt, it's really strategic. The larger ones, okay? I'm not talking about little small businesses. I'm talking about larger corporations. So like I was saying, what you would have to pass in conjunction with raising the federal minimum wage, you would have to pass legislation dictating that these corporations wouldn't be able to cut people's hours, because that's all they're gonna do. If they raise the minimum wage to double digits, what have you, they'll just cut your hours and then combine that with some jobs, not all. They'll combine that with some jobs with automation. They'll be like, okay, I'll cut your hours and I'll just automate, so that way I can still keep the same productivity and still save costs. You see what I'm saying? That's what you're gonna have to do when it comes to raising the minimum wage. It's gonna have to be legislation in conjunction with that, protecting you from having them just cut your hours for frivolous reasons, okay? And there must be a penalty if they try to do it. That's the only way that will really work. So I just want to touch on that, but let's let them talk here.
Mr. Walker, Senator Warnock, you did not raise your hand, so why not, and what would you do to help struggling Georgians?
I believe in the dignity of work, and I believe in the dignity of workers. I watched my dad work really hard to take care of his family. And I've seen what we call essential workers, these folks who are on the front line, stand up for us in the midst of the pandemic. We call them essential workers. They deserve an essential wage and essential benefits. In other words, workers deserve to participate in the prosperity that they are creating for others. And so I've been a part of this conversation around the minimum wage. I think people need a livable wage. And some of that is being addressed right now in this strong labor market. So I'm willing to work with folks in the corporate community as well as the labor community to figure out how we get to a good place. But there's no question, people.
I know you're willing to work with them, Warnock, because they own your punk ass. Y'all go in there on FEC.gov and look at all them corporations that's funding this man and look at what they dropping him. Then you'll see who really owns little Mr. Potato Head here. But see, this is something else I want to point out to black folks in particular too. When any politician, I don't care which one of them it is, Democrat or Republican, start coming at you with about how hard everybody work and all of that, let me tell y'all something, man. We're in a different age where you should be figuring out how to work smarter, not harder. Okay? Working hard, that ain't nothing to be bragging about. It's good to know how to do it. But ask yourself this. Why is it when it comes to hard work and working hard, they only direct that towards black people? You don't see them directing that towards no other group of people in this country but us. We've been working hard for over 400 plus years for free. And see, that's why those reparations have to be addressed. I don't care which candidate it is. Because see, a lot of people, this is something that'll surprise y'all. The Democrats have made their position clear on being strictly against, or as they put it, quote, not supporting reparations at this time. Okay, cool. I like that because as Neely Fuller Jr. has taught us, get them to clarify their position. Get them to say what they mean. So this means that anybody that brings up HR 40, you put that right back in their face and be like, don't even bring that up, because they've already clarified that they're not supporting reparations at this time. So the study, as we all knew before that statement, would be just a waste of time. But see, when it comes to the conservatives, believe it or not, a lot more of them, this is something that I have discovered on my own. A lot more of them are open to the idea of foundational black Americans getting reparations because, believe it or not, sometimes you have conversations with these ignorant people, because yes, a lot of them are stomped down, hardcore, anti-black racists. But if you have conversations with some of these people in that community, this is what I have discovered. They were under the impression that we were talking about just giving every black person in the country reparations willy-nilly, and as you all know, we're not on that. We're on lineage-based reparations, those of us who are descendants of slaves in this country. So what I found was a lot of them are a little bit more open to it. That was very surprising to me. A lot of y'all, if y'all over here in new black media spaces and a lot of Twitter spaces, you'll find a lot of them actually saying what I just said. So that's something I find very interesting. And if the Republicans today were smart, they would actually go ahead and start taking that issue up, okay? Because that's going to be an internal fight in their party. And we all seen Tommy Tuberville up there with his little commercial talking about what we're not owed, talking about some bullshit. I'm like, yeah, you can say what you want. We're going to get no reparations, buddy. And that's going to happen during our lifetime. But yeah, let's let them continue here.
Deserve to participate in the prosperity that they're creating for others. They deserve a livable wage, and they deserve benefits.
Thank you, Senator Warnock. We're going to move to our next topic, Tina.
And that topic is crime and violence. In June, Congress passed the first bipartisan legislation to combat gun violence in 30 years. According to a Pew Research poll released in July, 78% of Americans think the new gun law will do little or nothing to reduce gun violence. Senator Warnock, I turn to you first. As the number of shootings in Georgia and across the nation continue to rise, what should be done? What should the next step be to solve this issue? You have to answer this question, sir, and I give you 1 minute.
Well, I'm glad that we finally passed the first gun safety law in 30 years. And we did that on a bipartisan basis. I believe that this law will indeed save lives. And I'd like to see us work and see what we can achieve beyond that on a bipartisan basis. My heart goes out when I see the kinds of tragedies that we're witnessing all across our state, all across our country. And it's the reason why I have passed legislation to support law enforcement. I passed the largest investment in the cops program in a decade. I introduced legislation called Invest to Protect that's endorsed by the sheriffs of Burke County and Scriven County because it supports some of our smaller law enforcement entities. So we got to stand up with law enforcement, but we've also got to create opportunity.
Senator Warnock, thank you. Mr. Walker, we're posing the same.
Let me point out something to y'all about the state of Georgia, right? And Georgia voters here. Here's where Warnock put himself in between a rock and a hard place, and this is something that's probably going to push Herschel Walker over the edge if his people keep telling him to hammer on this. First things first, okay? If you don't make it clear to these white Georgia conservatives down here that you're not going to fool with their Second Amendment right anywhere at all, period, oh, you just shot yourself in the foot, buddy. I mean, figuratively and literally, okay? And see, then, when it comes to situations dealing with black people here in gun ownership, I'm going to tell y'all something a lot of y'all probably don't know. Outside of Texas, this probably is the place where you have the most registered black gun owners. We don't play about our firearms down here. We have to keep them on deck, as our brother Professor Platt True says. Keep your power tools on deck. Okay? Yeah, I mean, we have to keep them down here because, see, these people right down here, man, in the state of Georgia, these rednecks are the real deal down here. I'm going to tell you, man, I mean, you can't get caught slipping down here. That'll go real bad for you, right? Because, see, all we have to do is think back to the tragedy that happened to our brother Ahmaud Arbery down there in Brunswick, Georgia. Okay? I mean, his father and his people should have told him, man, you don't ever go jogging over there in their neighborhoods like that by yourself. I mean, if you're going to try that, you better do that in like a mixed community. But see, you know, he's in between a rock and a hard place here when it comes to this issue. Because, see, what black people are listening for, they're like, okay, when you start talking about you supporting the race soldiers down here, oh, yeah, see. Notice you're not going to hear him bring up when he started talking about all this stuff with cops. Neither one of them, actually. They're not going to bring up what happened to our brother Rayshard Brooks in Atlanta when that race soldier shot him in the back and he was running away. See, we don't forget those types of issues down here, okay? Especially the black men in Georgia. And a lot of our sisters are starting to realize now, too. Because, see, something that I'm starting to see more and more down here, as far as black Georgia is concerned, a lot of our sisters are on the same page with the brothers this go around. I'm going to tell y'all something, man. Let me say this to those of you in the chat room right now. I don't care whether you are a person in New Black Media with a small channel, a medium-sized channel, and we've all seen the work that our brother Tariq Nasheed, Jason Black, and Professor Black Truth have done. If you don't think that we've made a difference in the coherent thought process of our people going forward as far as this movement to get these reparations and focus on tangible policies and protection for our people, don't ever underestimate the power of New Black Media, okay? Roland Martin and the rest of them all out there, they don't have this kind of influence and reach with our people. I don't care whether you've got 1,000, 2,000 people in the chat, 5 people, 30 people, 70 people, 100 people. Our people are looking to us for the truth on news, and these spaces over here in New Black Media where we congregate to discuss exactly what moves we're going to make and how we're going to craft our agenda and present it to our people. This is why I am very proud of our sister Tesna Figaro with her Push the Line program. I'm going to tell y'all right now, if you are interested in running for a political office, no matter which side you're running for, Republican or Democrat, go sign up for that sister's training course. Okay, she will teach you everything you need to know to get into politics if that's what you want to do. So I just wanted to put that out there, but let's let them continue.
Question to you, sir. In 1 minute, what should the next step be to solve gun violence?
Well, first of all, any law or bill passed that will affect anyone's Second Amendment, I'm not going to stand for and I won't support. But third, to hear Senator Warnock talks about supporting law enforcement is sad, because he's called them names, and because of the name calling he's done, the morale is down, recruitment is down, only because of what he's done. He's empowered criminals to think they're better than the police. And because he believes in no cash bail, is releasing prisoners, he don't protect the border. Fentanyl is coming to this country and also into Atlanta. 70% of the drugs coming from the border goes to Atlanta, Georgia. And he told...
Let me address that. Okay, now, this is something a lot of people don't know. I'm going to break this down for a lot of y'all. Herschel Walker is actually very well informed on that. It's not quite as high as 70%, but it is very high, and I'm going to explain something to y'all about this right now. Okay? We all know that black people don't have no planes to fly in these drugs, right? So he's telling the truth. The greater majority of these drugs, the illicit drugs, come in through that southern border. Okay? Now, we're talking about the illicit drugs, but see, this is what Herschel didn't mention. I'm finna put y'all up on some game. When you look at like the Northeast, coming on down here to Georgia, Florida, and everything, that is a major junction hub for also legal drugs that are being sold illegally. Okay, we're talking about the abuse of prescription drugs and all of that. A lot of these doctors, man, down here, boy, they make a country killing off of those drugs. Okay, on the legal and illegal end. That's something a lot of people don't realize. I mean, like, see, back in the day, when you look back at history, Georgia was a buffer class state for like slavery. Okay, today it has become a buffer class state for all types of illegal activity. I'm gonna put y'all up on some more games. See, this boy, I'm finna make the Asian community very mad, but I'm gonna tell the truth. The reason why you see a lot of those little Asian massage parlors down here in places like Atlanta and other places in Georgia, you would not believe the money that they make. Because a lot of them actually have worked with federal agents. That's why they don't get busted. A lot of y'all was asking, why don't they just run in there and bust them? Let me tell you something, man. One thing about the Asian community, when they engage in criminal activity, they don't just jump out there willy-nilly. They go and get some people on their payroll that can cover their tracks. That's how they keep getting away with that. I'm just filling you in on something that a lot of people don't know. So when you look at that partnership between them and the dominant society, I mean, hey, they not gonna mess up the money. Okay, see that, and I'm gonna reveal something else to y'all that a lot of y'all probably don't understand. A lot of y'all are probably shocked at how they convicted them white supremacists down there in the Ahmaud Arbery case. Let me tell you why they had to go ahead and sacrifice them. Whether you know it or not, down there in southern Georgia, Brunswick, right before you get to Florida, a lot of dope is being moved through there, and you have a lot of corrupt law enforcement. Yes, the GBI, I'm calling them out. A lot of them are corrupt. And see, when that got exposed, the reason why they didn't want the feds investigating everything down there, because that was going to turn over a lot of other stones. And they were like, hey, look here, chump. You not finna, we can't stand niggers either, but hey, you can't mess up all this money we got coming in illegally down here. That's the real truth that a lot of people probably hadn't told y'all about that. I just want y'all to understand what Georgia really is, okay? Because see, when you see a lot of these white people moving here from other states, they not, a lot of them prefer to go to Florida, but if they coming down here to Georgia, let me tell you something, man, they getting away with a whole bunch of illegal activity down here, man. A lot of them will come down here where they were dirt poor up north, and they'll come down here and be multimillionaires before it's over with. I just want y'all to understand the truth about this, but let's get back to this debate. Let's let them keep talking here.
About the police, I have more sheriff that has endorsed me than anyone running in Georgia right now. And I even have some sheriffs here, and they've endorsed me because they know I have their back, they're going to have my back. So to listen to him say that after calling them name, I think is disgrace.
Mr. Thank you. I have a follow-up now for both of you.
I think I ought to be able to respond to that.
I will give you the opportunity, 15 seconds to respond, Senator Warnock.
We will see time and time again tonight, as we've already seen, that my opponent has a problem with the truth. And just because he said something doesn't mean it's true.
Talk about the pot calling the kettle black. It really, Warnock? You think Herschel got a problem with the truth? Okay, buddy. Okay.
Supported our police officers. I called them and I prayed with their families, like those officers lost in Cobb County when they were killed, doing what police officers routinely do. You can support police officers, as I've done, through the COPS program, through the Invest to Protect program, while at the same time holding police officers, like all professions, accountable. One thing I have not done, I've never pretended to be a police officer.
Before we get to the part that a lot of y'all are probably waiting on, yeah, I know you're already holding back laughter. Let's deal with this whole thing about holding people accountable when you hear politicians say that. If any of them insult you by coming to you talking about holding somebody accountable, the first thing you hit them with is tell me how. Let them know that accountability means punishment, not getting laid off with pay, not, you know what I'm saying, a reprimand, not, okay, you let them go and work somewhere else. That's not what accountable is. Accountable is punishment. That's what we're going to have to make clear to all of these people. I don't care which side of the aisle they're on, Democrat, Republican. Let them know if they start talking about accountability must mean the same thing when a black person does something wrong. It's immediate consequences. That's what we're going to need for that. But let's go ahead and get to the part that a lot of y'all probably been waiting on. Look, I'm going to explain something about that too. Here we go.
And I've never threatened a shootout with the police.
Well, and now I have to respond to that.
We are moving on.
Oh, I get it, Herschel. And now I have to respond to that. See, the hilarious thing about this, man, was Warnock kept shooting himself in the foot because every time he thought he had a gotcha moment, believe it or not, Herschel had an excellent comeback. But yeah, let's let him continue.
Well, I have to respond to that. And you know what's so funny? I am with many police officers, and at the same time.
Oh man, I'm sorry I had to laugh. Look, let me contain my laughter for a minute. I have worked with many police officers. Look at how he got his hand pointed like, I got you one out. You thought you had it, did you? Look at it, man. It's hilarious. But look, let me point something out, right? He actually is an honorary police officer with the Cobb County Police Department. And as you all know, an honorary badge doesn't give you any type of legal authority to do anything that a law enforcement officer does. But, you know, that's where his little crackerjack badge came from. So they actually did give him that. That is true, right? So, yeah, I just wanted to clear that up for a lot of people because I didn't hear anybody point that out. So, yes, Herschel's little official crackerjack badge, they did actually give that to him. So, yeah, let's let him continue.
Mr. Walker, Mr. Walker,
No.
Mr. Walker,
When he
Mr.
said a
Walker,
problem with
excuse
the
me,
truth-
Mr. Walker.
when he
Please,
said a problem
out of
with the truth,
respect,
the truth is
I need to
here.
let you know, Mr.
Yes.
Walker, you are very well
Yes.
aware of the rules tonight.
Yes.
And you have a prop.
Yes.
That is not allowed, sir. I ask you to put that prop away.
Well, it's not a problem. This is real. And he said, I have a problem.
Herschel said, damn it, you respect this badge. Now, I earned this. You respect my crackerjack badge.
It is considered a prop, Mr. Walker.
Yes.
Excuse me, sir.
Yes.
You're very well aware of the rules, aren't you?
Well,
Aren't you aware of the
he
rules?
brought up the truth. Let's talk about the truth.
Thank you for putting that
Yes.
prop away. And as a matter of fact, we still have a lot to get to, and we are not going to continue this. We're going to.
Herschel said, damn it, y'all ain't gonna make fun of my damn badge. You know, it's a new sheriff in town. You know, Sheriff Dumb Diddly Bo Diddly. You know what I'm saying? But hey, listen, man. He proud of his little crackerjack badge that he got from Cobb County Police Department, honorary sheriff badge, honorary deputy badge. That's what he has. But, you know, see, one of the things that I want y'all to pay attention to as we progress further in and we get ready to wrap this up, man, listen. Warnock, from what we just seen so far, let me ask y'all something, right? If you were a politician, I'm gonna put you. I know I'm finna do something despicable. I'm gonna put y'all in the Democratic Party. If you were in the Democratic Party and you were watching this debate right now from just what you've seen, would you be comfortable in your candidate and Raphael Warnock with the way he's performed so far? I want y'all to think on that as this debate goes forward. Just tell me, if you were a Democratic bigwig, would you have confidence in your candidate by the way this debate has gone so far? Just think on that.
Follow up with a question, and this is according to the CDC. Homicide is the leading cause of death for African American youth. Mr. Walker, in 30 seconds, why do you believe this is happening? And what would you do to stop it?
Well, what I would do is hold people accountable, which is Senator Warnock not doing. Believing in no cash bail, no accountability, that is a problem. People must be accountable for their action. And the truth lies with Senator Warnock, because he said he was doing the Washington.
I got to do it. Ladies and gentlemen in the chat, are you telling the truth, and are you accountable for your actions? I just want to know if you're accountable for your actions in the chat, ladies and gentlemen. I'm sorry. I had to do it.
To represent Georgia, he went to Washington to represent Joe Biden. That's the reason we're in the mess we're in today, because he represents Joe Biden and not the truth for Georgia.
Senator Warnock, this follow-up for you. Same question. What do you believe homicides among African American youth is growing? Why are those homicides growing, sir? And how do we stop it?
Well, it's heartbreaking. And I've seen this up close as a pastor. I've presided over some of these funerals. I've met with young people. And we have to have rules and laws in the society, which I support and I've invested in as a legislator. At the same time, we have to create opportunity. There's no sickness like the loss of hope. When people lose hope, when they doubt that their life can be any longer or that they...
Y'all hear that word he used? Hope, right? Now, what other buck dancing, bootlicking punk sold us on the word hope? Who's that sound like? I'll give you a hint. He's actually coming down here to stump for Warnock and Abrams, since they're doing so poorly down here. I just want y'all to remember that. Now, listen to this bootlicking weasel as he starts talking about this, because see, if you are in a situation where there's a tangible physical problem to deal with, you don't need hope. If either of you in this chat were in the desert for 3 days, okay, and you had no water, and I came up on horseback, drinking water, spilling all down my mouth and everything, and I offered you hope and a prayer instead of some water that I got plenty to spare. I just don't give you none. Can you really say that I care about you? That's the image that you should have in your head when any politician approaches you with some bullshit instead of a tangible solution. And when you talk to them about tangible solutions, they start deflecting and dancing. Then you let them know that, okay, just like you deflected and danced away from giving me a direct answer or trying to comply with my agenda, I'm going to deflect and dance away from giving you my vote. Your vote should be considered just like your money and your time. It's precious. Don't waste either. Let's continue.
A dream of something bigger than the street they live on. A lot of things can happen. I grew up in one of those neighborhoods, but I had a nurturing family, and I benefited from good federal public policy, like the Head Start program, like Upward Bound, like Pell Grants and low-interest student loans. And to invest in our children is to invest in our best resource.
Senator Warnock, thank you. We are moving on, gentlemen, to the next question, and this topic is about personal integrity. Buck?
We're going to shift gears a little bit here. Senator Warnock, in 2020, you tweeted this: unemployment benefits have expired, rent is due, and many Georgia families are at risk of eviction. My opponents are supposed to be serving the people in Washington, but they are clearly concerned with their own interests. Well, recent published reports talk about a property that your church owns, Columbia Towers at MLK Village in Atlanta. It's a home for the disadvantaged. At least a dozen lawsuits have been filed by residents evicted for not being able to pay their rent. Some of the outstanding balances are less than $30. As someone who receives more than...
This right here if you didn't think that this was the nail in the coffin hadn't been delivered at any other time in this debate, this was definitely the beginning of the end right here. I want y'all to listen to how this weasel responds to that, because this is true. That actually happened. A lot of y'all probably didn't know about that. He actually did that. I want y'all to pay attention to how he responds to this.
$7,000 a month for a housing allowance from Ebenezer Baptist Church. How do you explain this to Georgia voters who are struggling currently to make ends meet?
Well, let me say that serving in the United States Senate and continuing to serve my church is the honor of my life. And it gives me a lens through which to do the work that I'm doing. But here's why you know I'm running against a desperate candidate. Anytime a candidate would stoop to the level of trying to sully the name, he and his allies, to sully the name of Martin Luther King Jr.
Listen to this man. Listen to Weasel Warnock. Nobody's talking about the damn church. They ask you a direct question about you evicting tenants from your property, Weasel Warnock. That's what they asked you.
Jr.'s church and John Lewis's church. You know that's a desperate candidate. Let me tell you about my church. My church is a Matthew 25 church. We spend every week, every day feeding the hungry and the homeless. They know that those false charges that they've created are not true. We stand up for poor people every single day, and I ran for the Senate to do at a policy level what we do at a local level every single day. I'm not going to be distracted by him and his allies. My people know the truth. They know the work we do every single day, and I couldn't be prouder of them. Proud to represent the Senate and proud to serve Ebenezer Baptist Church.
So just to clarify, your position is that the allegations in these lawsuits are not true?
I am saying that it is very obvious that my opponent and his allies are busy trying to sully Ebenezer Baptist Church.
Pay attention to how the white moderator looked at him. Pay attention to how the audience was sounding. Let me tell you something. That moment right there really hurt that man. I mean, see, in other words, he's basically telling you, hey, don't believe your lying eyes. Listen to what I tell you. There's paperwork on it. You can pull it up. It's public record. How you gonna claim that it's a false allegation when the paperwork is out there, Weasel Warnock? This is pathetic, man. I'm gonna tell you, man. Really? Herschel Walker didn't have to beat him. He beat himself. I mean, when he loses, because I'm just gonna say it. I honestly believe he's going to lose. And when he does lose, he's gonna have to look back at this and blame himself, man. Being a weasel, nobody respects that at all, man. Nobody.
Now you see the problem with the truth.
Switching gears a little bit here, sir. Your ex-wife filed a lawsuit asking for increased child support, saying that she had to pay for child care on days that your duties as a senator interfered with your parenting time, and citing significant increases in your income. In 30 seconds, what is your response to that lawsuit?
Listen, I went through a divorce, like a lot of people. And while that was a painful period, what came out of that was two amazing children that I just talked to before I came on this stage. And my children know that I am with them and for them, and that I support them in every single way that a father does.
Thank you, Senator Warnock. Now to you, Mr. Walker.
See, let me explain something to y'all about what this weasel just tried to pull here. What Warnock is trying to pull, he's trying to talk to this audience dealing with politics like he talks to his church. Problem. It's a mostly white audience. You can't run that game on them that you run on the parishioners of your church. They're not buying that, man. All this trying to equate things. Because, see, the dominant society, they know the tricks that they run on us. So for the white Georgians in this audience, they're looking at him. They ain't saying it. I'm just going to tell you what they're thinking. They're thinking, how dare you try to run this game on us, Negro? We taught you how to run it. What make you think you're going to pull this over on us? That's how they're looking at him right there. Okay? He has no respect amongst those people, man. And see, they would have left him where he is. They would have left him where he is if not for one thing, this inflation. Okay? When you start messing with these white wealthy Georgia people's money, oh, they ain't gonna take too kindly to that. And these are all black people down here. That's one thing that everybody understands is somebody messing with your bottom line. And see, then you gonna add insult to injury by lying and just evading direct questions about serious issues. Oh man, see, he shot himself in the foot, man. It's crazy.
Ads have highlighted allegations of past domestic violence. They've raised questions about how transparent you've been as far as your resume. In 1 minute, how do you respond to voters who question your integrity, both personally and professionally?
First of all, I've been very transparent, and I'm not ashamed to admit it. And I say I had a mental problem, and I'll be a champion for mental health because so many people suffer from mental health. But to have people like Senator Warnock that demonize mental health, when I want to tell everyone out there, you can get help. Don't listen to Senator Warnock and his people. You can get help. All you got to do is ask. All you got to do is ask. But the problem with the truth, you just saw it. You just saw it because he won't answer that about evicting the people from the church. And I told him I will pay their.
See, Herschel's not hiding anything. But see, I'm going to throw something else out here to you that I hadn't heard anybody else mention yet. Again, I'm going back to the white moderator of this debate. They asked Herschel Walker about things in his personal life, but look at how many more things that they threw Senator Warnock's ways. And the reason why I'm bringing that up is I honestly believe that, boy, I think the Republicans probably slipped that white moderator a bag, man. Because, I mean, when you look at it, the issues that they asked Herschel about wasn't really that big of a deal. The stuff that they hit and wore out with, man, listen, I'm just saying, I may be wrong, but I think I might be onto something there.
Pay their salary. You evicted them right now. We have
not evicted. We have not evicted those.
I didn't write the article.
I didn't write the article.
And most of the people let my time.
I'm okay with the discussion if we start talking over each other.
We have not evicted the tenants. And he should take that money and pay it back to the veterans that he exploited while pretending to run.
And see, you can tell that he's not desperate because if he had read in that thing, he would have saw that I had nothing to do with that. But he is so desperate right now, and he really wants that seat. He's now telling you, I didn't evict anyone. It is written in the paper. I didn't do this. Well, Senator, you did. And it's okay to speak the truth. Do not bear false witness, Senator. Do not bear false witness.
Mr. Walker, to keep us moving.
Oh, man, listen, man. I don't know about y'all, but when I saw that part of the debate, man, I couldn't help but crack up. Do not bear false witness, Senator. Do not bear false witness. Man, listen. Every time that he thought he had a gotcha moment with Herschel Walker, he came right back on his ass. Again, his handlers did a great job, man. Can you imagine how angry you would be if this man was outperforming you at anything that required any type of depth of critical thinking or thought? I mean, look, it's one thing to lose against an opponent that's worthy, but this man can barely recite his ABCs and he's killing Louisa Warnock. Jesus Christ. Look, I'm going to tell y'all, man. I've seen some pretty knockdown, drag out debates in my lifetime, but this was embarrassing. I ain't gonna lie, man. I don't see how Warnock comes back from this. I really don't. But hey, you know, again, my hats is off to Herschel Walker's handlers, man. I mean, they compensated for that Herschelese that he speaks, that alien language. But I mean, hey, look, you know, he's killing him in this debate. I'm just saying, man. Let's let him continue. Yeah.
I want to follow up with you. You have been very open on your, Mr. Senator Warnock. We need to move forward here. You have been very open about your struggles with mental illness, and you even wrote a book about your diagnosis of dissociative identity disorder. We recently asked if you were still receiving treatment, and this is what you had to say.
No, that's all done, and you don't need to, and that's why I tell people. I think one thing I told people is I've been open about it, and I was open about it, 14 years ago.
Mr. Walker, in 30 seconds, can you clarify this? Are you saying you no longer have dissociative identity disorder, or is this something that you continue to this day to manage?
No, you don't have to have treatment for it. And I encourage people to continue to talk to people. You know, I talk to my pastors.
That's why I'm telling y'all to pray for us, man, because this man got a good chance of winning. That is not a minor disorder. That is not a minor disorder. We need y'all, man. Pray for your Georgia brothers and sisters because, either which way, it's a bad deal. But this man, see, look, all jokes aside, I'm going to tell y'all something, though. One thing that I would encourage anybody to do, when you're dealing with something, just stand on the truth. The truth is the most simple and effective thing that you can use because, see, when you're dealing with a dishonest opponent, that's always going to give you the advantage. People respect the truth, even if it's something negative or something that you feel short upon. Just come out and state the truth. That's all you have to do. Just be yourself and state the truth. And in his case, I mean, ordinarily you would tell someone like him not to be himself and state the truth. But see, when you know the audience that you're talking to, first and foremost, he understands how to appeal to the white conservatives. He understands how to appeal to like the older black voters that he wants to sway. And he's using facts while he's going at Warnock. With everything that he's stating is stuff that you can pull up and verify. The stuff that Warnock is trying to hit him with, he trying to pull out gotcha moments, but I'm like, you're falling flat, man, because you won't answer direct questions. Let him continue.
And I continue to get help if I need help, but I don't need any help. I'm doing well. But that's the reason why I tell anyone out there that is suffering from any type of mental illness, you can get help. All you got to do is ask. And I will always be a champion for mental health.
And just to clarify, how can Georgia voters, though, be assured that this will not impact your ability to lead if elected?
Because I'm ready to lead today. I'm ready to vote with the Georgia voters, whereas Senator Warnock has voted with Joe Biden 96% of the time. I'm ready to vote with the Georgia voters today.
Thank you, gentlemen. We'll move on to our next topic. Tina?
And that topic, gentlemen, is health insurance. Georgia is one of 12 states that have not accepted federal funding to expand Medicaid under the Affordable Care Act. Mr. Walker, with more than 1.5 million Georgians uninsured, in 1 minute, is it time for the federal government to step in to ensure all Georgians have access to health care?
Well, right now, people have coverage for health care. It's according to what type of coverage do you want. Because if you have an able-bodied job, you're going to have health care. But everyone else have health care is the type of health care you're going to get. And I think that is the problem. And what Senator Warnock wants you to do is depend on the government. What I want you to do is get off the government health care and get on the health care he's got to get you a better health care. So that's what I'm trying to do, to make you independent rather than dependent.
Thank you, Mr. Walker. Senator Warnock, you have 1 minute. You've vowed to close the Medicaid gap by expanding access coverage in the Affordable Care Act marketplace. So this comes with a $50 billion price tag, the national debt already at an all-time high. Where is this money coming from? You have 60 seconds, sir.
This is not a theoretical issue for me.
Before Weasel Warnock goes on his book dancing deflect-a-palooza tirade, let me tell y'all something in this chat. And I typed it in the chat earlier. For those of you that just joining us, I want y'all to, in fact, I'm going to put this in here again just in case anybody just came in here. Don't ever let these people start talking to you about any type of national debt, because see, as we've all seen, they can send billions of dollars over to Ukraine about a situation that has nothing to do with Americans. Nothing to do with Americans. Okay, so I don't want to hear that. On top of that, when you start to look at how much they spend in Afghanistan over a 20-year period, that also was in the billions. But that website I just dropped in the chat, again, in case you just came in here, go look at that website. That's foreignassistance.gov. That shows you where our taxpayer dollars are going in real time. So when these people start talking about, ooh, I ain't got it, nah, go and quote them figures, because those are current, up-to-date figures right now. It's where all our money is going. You quote those figures to these people when they start that, ooh, I ain't got it. Nah, you got it. If you got it to send overseas to people that's not even citizens of this country, don't get me started on the illegal aliens they letting over here. You gonna have it for foundational black Americans too when it comes to these tangibles. You damn sure gonna have it then. Cause see, touching further on the situation with Russia and Ukraine, I don't know how many of you in here are into geopolitics, but that's something I follow very stringently on a daily basis. Basically, what you have with the situation with Russia and Ukraine, go back into the 50s, right? During the Cuban Missile Crisis, when Russia was trying to put missile silos down there in Cuba and have them pointed at the United States. This is why Cuba is still under sanctions to this day regarding that. So the counter to that, you see Biden up here. He's trying to basically secure a bunch of NATO nations and have them right at Putin's back door. Basically, this is like, okay, you try to do it to us, we're going to do it to you. That's why they're dumping so much money into Ukraine and trying to get them to join NATO. But there's some complications with that. There's a bunch of corruption over there, a bunch of neo-Nazis over there in Russia too, but definitely over there in Ukraine. So I just want to break that down so you can understand why these people are so obsessed with sending all this cash over there. Our money, our reparations. That's what I'm calling it. Part of our reparations money, they dumping it all over there in Ukraine. I just want to give y'all a bit of backstory on that. But let's let these morons continue here.
When I think about healthcare, I think about Lori Davis, a trauma nurse in Covington, Georgia, who spent her career taking care of people. And then she got sick and she had to give up that job, and as she got sicker and sicker, she found herself without health care. She was one of the 600,000 Georgians in the Medicaid gap. She died for lack of health care. And so I ran saying that I would fight to expand Medicaid. Georgia needs to expand Medicaid. It costs us more not to expand. What we're doing right now is we're subsidizing health care in other states. Meanwhile, we've seen 10 hospitals in this state close, 10. And the Atlanta Medical Center right down the street from my church, where I visit my members, has announced that it's going to close. And so Georgia needs a senator who believes, like I do, that health care is a human right. And I will continue to fight until the working class people, by the way, the folks who don't have health care, they work every single day. The folks who are in the gap,
and I believe in that.
The folks, let me finish. The folks who are in the gap, the folks who are in the gap are the working poor.
We are moving on, Senator Warnock.
I believe in health care, but he didn't mention that.
Listen, Mr. Walker, if I can get your attention, please. In just a few weeks, Wellstar will close its doors. This is Atlanta Medical Center, which primarily serves patients in lower income and minority communities. Hospitals nationwide are dealing with nursing shortages, doctor shortages in the wake of the pandemic. Mr. Walker, what measures can Congress enact to ensure everyone has access to hospitals and doctors? You have 30 seconds, sir.
Well, first of all, Senator Warnock was correct that he believed in working with people, but he didn't do it because Governor Kemp has a plan that would have been a very good plan. But he stood back while Biden destroyed the plan. And he's talking about he believes in the extension of it. He stood back. Well, what the people can be assured of is I'm willing to meet with hospital administrators, meet with people rather than writing a letter, because Senator Warnock waited till they made a decision and wrote a letter. And I said they don't need a pen payout, they need solutions.
We are moving on now, Senator Warnock.
Ooh, man, listen, man. I don't care what y'all think about Herschel. That line right there, boy. See, when somebody is hitting you like that in a political debate, you can't respond like some little mealy mouse, shrug, drop shoulder, buck dancing, deflecting Sambo. You have to have a strategic retort to that. See, I'm almost wondering if the Democrats are tired of Warnock and they set him up for defeat. You mean to tell me they didn't have anybody sit down and work with this man and come up with a better strategy going into this debate? This is like they just threw him out there and just let him wing it, man. I'm sorry, man. That's what it looks like to me. But hey, let's let him continue.
That same question to you, sir. What measures can Congress enact to ensure everyone has access to hospitals and doctors? You have 30 seconds.
Well, clearly he doesn't have a solution.
He said I'll meet with administrators. That's a solution.
He said his solution is to meet. My solution is to pass legislation, which I've done. I got $4 billion in the American Rescue Plan to help the non-expansion states to do what they should have done to expand. They left that money on the table. Georgia left 600,000 Georgians in the Medicaid gap. And so I'm going to keep standing up because people are literally dying for lack of health care. Dr. King said that of all the injustices, inequality in health care is the most shocking and the most inhumane. I agree with Dr. King.
Thank you, Senator Warnock. Buck, now the next topic.
Thank you, Tina. We're going to talk about foreign policy now. Russian President Vladimir Putin has threatened to use nuclear weapons in the conflict with Ukraine, prompting President Biden to claim that we are on the verge of Armageddon. Senator Warnock, if nuclear weapons are used, how should the United States respond? You have 60 seconds.
Well, first of all, I'm glad that we're standing up to Putin's aggression. And we have to continue to stand up, which is why I stood up to the Biden administration when it suggested that we should close the Savannah Combat Readiness Training Center. I told the president that was the exact wrong thing to do at the exact wrong time. And I'm glad that I was able to stand up with Congressman Buddy Carter and others. And we kept that training center open. I've seen up close what those service members do. They are the tip of the spear. And we have to make sure that our service members know that we have their back. We have to strengthen our allies and the NATO alliance as we've done, and make sure we stand up to Russian aggression. Nothing could be more important.
Mr. Walker, the same question to you. If nuclear weapons are used, how should the U.S. respond? You have 60
Well, first of all, he talked about standing up. You didn't stand up to Chuck Schumer when you could have got a helicopter company here of almost $1 billion. You let it go to New York. You didn't stand up then. You didn't stand up to Biden when he left American people and had 13 military soldiers killed in Afghanistan. You didn't stand up then. So what we can do is, Putin is a bully. And the way you beat a bully, you show strength. Well, Senator Warnock said he stood up. He not stood up to Biden. If he was standing up, he wouldn't have.
See, let me tell you something, ladies and gentlemen. Again, we can make fun of Herschel Walker and his Herschelese all we want, and him looking like a dizzy character on Street Fighter that's just running around and don't know where he at or what time of day it is. But this is what happens when you haven't done anything for the people that you're representing. Because see, the perfect defense against every time Herschel Walker would go at him would be if you've actually done something you can hit back with, like, okay, I've done X, Y, Z, 1, 2, 3. You would be able to present your record. And then furthermore than that, you wouldn't have to tell people about it. People would see what you're doing if you're actually getting anything accomplished. See, that lets you know that Warnock, he's basically just a puppet. He's not doing anything but collecting taxpayer dollars. That's it. And see, what the way they sent him out here is ill prepared to handle Herschel Walker. First of all, maybe he underestimated the man and thought that he didn't have to prepare. That's very foolish, because in war, on any spectrum or any front, whether it's figurative or literal, you never underestimate your opponent. I hope all of y'all in this chat room remember that. Don't you ever underestimate any opponent that you have to go and compete with in any way, shape, form, or fashion. Even if you think that you have them in your back pocket, you prepare, over prepare. Have strategies in advance. And it just looked like this man just was not prepared at all. I think they're ready for him to go. Maybe they're tired of him. They got somebody else they're going to replace him with, even if Herschel doesn't win. And I'm saying it again. It's Herschel's race to lose at this point. Let's let him continue.
Voted with him 96% of the time, which gave us an open border, which gave us high inflation, which gave us crime in the streets. And he talking about standing up. He didn't stand up. He had laid down every time it came around. And you know that, Senator.
It is evident that he has a point that he tries to make time and time again. I've stood up to the Biden administration so that they could keep open this Combat Training Readiness Center, stood with our congressional delegation to do that. I've worked across the aisle time and time to get good things done for the people of Georgia. I worked with a senator from Texas to build out I-14. I worked with a Republican senator from Alabama to help Georgia farmers get their products to market. I will work with anyone and stand up against anybody I need to stand up against to get good things done for Georgia. I work for the people of Georgia.
We need to move forward to our next topic, gentlemen. Our time is running short. Both of you have strong backing from your respective parties. Senator Warnock, a simple yes or no here. You will have a chance to explain, but I'd like a simple yes or no. Would you support President Biden running for a second term in 2024?
I've not spent a minute thinking about what politicians should run for what in 2024.
Is that a yes or a no?
The answer is I have not. And maybe this is difficult. Maybe this is difficult for people to understand, because that's how politicians think. I think that part of the problem with our politics right now is that it's
Listen to how this man is stumbling, fumbling, and bumbling over his words. for the sisters in the chat right now, let me ask y'all a question, right? I want y'all to confirm this for me. If this was your man handling a problem, would you have confidence in him? Seriously, listen to how he sounds, his demeanor, his body posture, and everything. See, he thought that saying I don't have time to worry about who's running in 2024 was a smart answer. Let me tell you why that was a very stupid answer. If you're in any type of leadership capacity, particularly in politics, you're supposed to plan for the future. See, the reason why he wanted to duck that question, because he knows he's Biden's little trained pet poodle. And he didn't want to really say the answer that I'm going to go ahead and fill y'all in on something. Most of the older white conservative crowd here, and look, I'm gonna keep it a buck with you. Some of the older white Democratic crowd here does not want Biden to run again. I'm telling y'all, man, I'm not telling you what I believe or what I feel or what I think. I'm telling you what I know. That's one thing that both liberals and conservatives in the dominant society have in common here in this state. They really don't want him to vote again. They don't want him to run for office again, rather. They don't want Biden to run for office again, okay? Because that man can't even tell what he's coming to go. I mean, just look at the things we've seen Biden do. Y'all remember that time where he was speaking somewhere and he turned around to shake somebody's hand that wasn't there? I was like, oh my God, this is who's running the damn country? Oh man, boy, look at him, man. But yeah, let's let him continue, man. I mean, this is just embarrassing, man, at this point. They should have threw in the towel on this, man. That's bad, man. Herschel slaughtered this, man.
Come too much about the politicians. You're asking me who's going to run in 24? The people of Georgia get to decide who's going to be their senator in 3 days, Monday. And I hope they'll show up and vote. And I'd be honored to represent them in the Senate.
You haven't thought about it. If you can think about it now, in 2024, the president will turn 82 years old. Are you concerned about his physical and his mental fitness at that time? You have 30 seconds.
The people of Georgia hired me to represent them regardless of who's in the White House. I'm honored to do that job every single day. My dad said if somebody hires you to do a job, do the job they hired you to do. They didn't hire me to be a pundit. And I'm working every single day for hardworking families in Georgia, for our women, for our workers, and for kids like me, growing up in places like Caden Homes.
Mr. Walker, former President Trump is also considering a run for the White House in 2024. If you can give me a simple yes or no answer, and we'll give you time to explain as well. Would you support a Trump 2024 run?
Yes, I would. And let me tell you,
boy, did y'all see that cheese-eating grin on his face when they asked Herschel Walker about that? Yes, he was like, I've been waiting on y'all to ask me that question. Oh, man. Hey, listen to what he told him. Now, for those of you that haven't seen this yet, this was hilarious, man.
President Trump is my friend. Has nothing to do with that. He's my
Predator, my friend. Predator, my friend.
Friend, I won't leave my allies, which what Senator Warnock and Joe Biden did in Afghanistan. They left their allies. They left their allies, and right now on a foreign stage, a lot of these people don't trust us no more. They don't trust us to be strong anymore. So they're waiting to see who's going to stand up, who's going to trust. They have no one to trust right now because I said President Trump is my friend, and he won't stand up with Biden when yet he's voted with him 96% of the time. Let's be real.
Mr. Walker, are you concerned about the ongoing legal investigations around the country and including here in Georgia? You have 30 seconds.
Well, first of all, I would hope that Senator Warnock, he and myself being people of color, would want the scales of justice to not have a hand on it. We want the Lady Justice to be blind, but in this instance here, Lady Justice is not blind. And I said right now, with everything that is going on, what I like to do is get to what's important. What's important is protecting the border. What's important is protecting people on the street. What's important is getting this inflation down. Not what's going on there in Washington, talking about whether President Trump is guilty or not guilty. What I want to do is see due process, which is what I hope Senator Warnock and myself would love to see.
Changing topics now, we're going to move forward just to give you guys both an update that you may want to know. Although the news is not great if you're a Braves fan. Right now they're in the top of the ninth inning, Game 3, National League Division Series, down 9-1 to the Phillies. Not a great night for the Braves. Just a few weeks ago, the World Series champs, though, they did visit the White House. Their visit sparked a renewed debate about the team's name and their signature tomahawk chop. Mr. Walker, do you believe the Braves should rethink their name, their logo, or their signature cheer? You have 30 seconds.
Not at all. Right now we have too many other things to be concerned about. We have people dying on the streets in Atlanta, around the country. We have people living paycheck to paycheck, can't afford food to put on their table, can't afford gas. We have Putin out there. We have China out there. We can't be concerned about whether the Braves going to change their name. We need to be concerned about saving this country. We need to be concerned about saving the Georgia people. We need to be concerned about giving people a right to live the liberties and freedoms that the Constitution of the United States guarantees them to have.
Senator Warnock, the same question to you in regards to the Braves. Do you think?
I hope y'all was paying attention to that response that Herschel Walker just gave, because see, regardless of how ridiculous he looks and sounds, that's what the greater majority of people in Georgia here are concerned about, okay? I mean, our issues are different when it comes to the dominant society because, hey, we're on reparations as far as foundational Black Americans here. That's one of our primary concerns, in addition to punishing these race soldiers when they murder our people unjustly. But all those basic core issues that he brought up right there, that's why he got that applause just then. Now, look at that look on Warnock's face. Look at the look on his face, and then listen to what's about to come out of his mouth next.
Think they should rethink their name, their logo, or their signature cheer?
Well, first of all, I'm praying for the Braves right about now. They've got a ways to go here. Listen, the management of the Braves is meeting with our tribes, and they're having a conversation about this. And I know the folks over at the Braves organization, and I trust that they and the tribes that they're talking to will come to a place that makes sense for all involved.
Senator Warnock, we're going to go ahead and continue. We want to get a few more questions in tonight. Senator Warnock, some of your Senate colleagues have called for expanding the number of seats on the Supreme Court. In 15 seconds, quickly, sir, would you support this?
What I support
expanding
listen,
the seats on the Supreme Court.
I think that my job as a senator is to protect the rights of ordinary citizens. And for the first time, perhaps in my lifetime, we've seen those rights contract rather than expand, whether we're talking about the reproductive rights of women or voting rights. And I'm going to do everything I can to protect the rights of the citizens of Georgia.
Thank you, Senator Warnock. Mr. Walker, would you support expanding the number of seats on the Supreme Court? In 15 seconds, sir.
Yes, when you get in Washington, you have to become a leader. Being a leader, you have to make tough decisions. And you see on that answer there, he really didn't give you an answer. So my answer is no. I wouldn't know.
Thank you, gentlemen. Now we have reached the point for final moments of this debate, a chance for your closing remarks. You have 60 seconds.
Each have 60 seconds to answer, and Senator Warnock, you have the floor first.
Well, thank you so very much, Georgia. It's wonderful to be here. Listen, in this state we have nearly 11 million people, and only 2 people get to represent us in the United States Senate, just 2. And when I think about that, it is an awesome responsibility, one that humbles me and inspires me to work as hard as I can for hardworking families every single day. And I've worked with Democrats and Republicans in order to do that work. These are difficult times. These are dark times. But the scripture says that the light shines in the darkness, and the darkness overcometh it not. I'm honored to represent you in the Senate. I hope that you'll show up to vote early, beginning Monday. I'd be honored to have your vote. God bless you. Keep the faith.
Mr. Walker, your turn for closing statements, and you have 60 seconds as well.
For those of you who are concerned about voting for me, a non-politician, I want you to think about the damage politicians like Joe Biden and Raphael Warnock have done to this country. I want you to think about Raphael Warnock, what he said today. And I said he was going to try to give you some smooth talk and tell you what's happening. What's happening is this country is hurting. what's happening is we need leaders. So what I want to say to you, Senator Warnock, is I want to thank you. I want to thank you for this. But at the same time, I want to say Georgia needs leaders. They need leaders that's going to stand up for them. So let's think about if we give Senator Warnock 6 more years, think what this country will become. I'm not sure if we can make up for that.
Gentlemen,
So I
thank
said
you.
vote for Herschel Walker.
Thank you both, gentlemen. That's going to conclude our debate for this evening. Before we leave tonight, though, we want to remind voters that early voting begins in Georgia on Monday. It will run through November 4th. Election Day is November 8th.
Candidates, thank you. And we, of course, want to thank Plant Riverside District, Kessler Collection Property for this venue to broadcast this debate.
We appreciate everyone tuning in tonight. We hope you have a great night.
Well, there you have it, family. You saw the debate in its entirety. Now, all of you that are still in here, who would you say won that debate? I throw a 1 in the chat if you think Herschel Walker won. Throw a 2 in the chat if you think Senator Warnock won. I just want to see what y'all think. I want to see if I'm the only one that didn't see this for exactly what it was, because in my opinion, Herschel Walker handed his man his unprepared ass. He really did. He really did. This is what happens when the dominant society, in my view, is through with a tool that they once had use for. Because I believe they just sent him out there and threw him to the wolves, man. And see, as we get ready to close here tonight, because I just wanted to touch on a couple of things that I don't think other people pointed out about this debate, because they didn't really understand certain things here in Georgia. Understand that how this debate ended, if you did poorly in a debate, it will work to your advantage to be the last person to make your closing statement, so that way you will have one final chance to have something and leave something with your constituency and your audience that will resonate with them. Now look at the way Herschel Walker closed that debate, and he looked at him as dizzy and confused as he was and told him that he thanked him. Let me tell you why he thanked him. In the coming days here in this state, what you're going to see off this debate, with all the deflecting that he did, he just gave them a wealth of campaign advertisement commercials. I mean, they are going to eat his ass alive using this, man. I look, he thanked him for a reason, because see, technically, he pretty much just gave him this Senate race. The only way that Herschel could mess this up, this is what I would do, man. As we get ready to wrap this up, man, I would lock Herschel away in a room. I'd be like, look, don't go nowhere. Don't talk to nobody. Don't do nothing. You got this. Just sit down and shut up. That's what I would do with him. That's what they better do, man. Because, boy, they're going to be aggressively looking for anything that they can pull out the rabbit hat to throw a monkey wrench in this thing, because they know they hurting. The Democratic Party as a whole is hurting. Because, I mean, look, it's over for Stacey Abrams. I keep telling people, man, it was over from the jump. That's over, man. She didn't even have a chance to get out the gate, man. But I hope y'all was able to learn something from this. So shout out to everybody that made it over here to check this out. Like I said, I hope it was very constructive, even though we were laughing and joking at the Herschelese being spoken at this book dancing weasel over here, Warnock. Shout out to everybody that contributed to the broadcast on the Cash App or the PayPal. I will shout your names out on the community tab as appreciation. Unless you've indicated that you wish to remain anonymous, I respect people's privacy. But I do appreciate any and everybody that contributes to this broadcast. So with that said, brothers and sisters, please do share this, and hopefully this will clear up some things that people had misconceptions about that are not from Georgia, with why Herschel Walker made a strong standing in this debate. I know it's unbelievable. I didn't expect it, but we have to tell the truth and call things for what they are. So with that said, brothers and sisters, black first, hold it down. Remember to demand that these people get on board with our agenda and cut the check. I will see you all in future content.